This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing. So as it stands right now, we've got ourselves Matt Cook on pole position here as we welcome you here to the second round of the Classic Indycar Series on Racesport TV, streaming live on the iRacing Esports Network. Matt Cook here, Randy, has got provisional pole position by 1/10 of a second over Randy Shoemake. Andrew Aitken in third, Sage Karam in fourth, and Robert Grosser rounds out your top five.
Yeah, that's actually a very impressive lap for Matt Cook, a full 10th and a half quicker than anyone else right now, and he's out there getting ready. Well, he's doing just a little bit of practice runs. He's actually exceeded his allotted laps. I will say one thing that's interesting, the 93 of Josh Chin, not going to be getting a lap time in here, so he will be starting from the back of the field. Going to be interesting to see what the 93 can do to maybe try to work his way through after bad luck at Interlagos. Not a great start for his championship.
Yeah, in fact, 29 drivers have set themselves a qualifying lap here today, and 31 drivers will be heading themselves to the grid with Matt Cook on pole position, 29.7 his qualifying time, and Randy Shoemake a 1.5 tenth of a second deficit as the cars start to line up behind the iRacing first safety car. Andrew Aitken in third, and Sage Karam in fourth position. And then you got yourselves Robert Grosser in fifth, Matt Molnar in sixth, Tristan Holster in seventh, Team Ison Namey in eighth. Ninth place, Randy, is Lucas Seville, and running out your top 10 is Jan Hoffman.
Then you got the likes of Josh Baird and Johnny Garrett starting on that next row behind with Tony Novzad and Daniel Schoolmeister in that seventh row. Ariel Guerrero Jr. and Hugo Hernandez on row 8 with Andrew Wood and Mike Ehrlich on row 9. And then Marshall Stanley and Vesa Yili Olia rounding out your top 20.
P number 21 is Jonathan Diggs. P22 is Hans Pitkinen. Zachary Zara in 23rd with Caleb Weekly alongside him in 24th. Andrew Adair-Saunders in P number 25. Franz Josef Stum in P number 26 with Wally Collins in 27th. Yoni Kajinen in P number 28. P number 29, the last two qualifiers, is Croston Broadway. And again, we talked about that. Two non-qualifiers in this 31 car field here today. And Randy, this race is all about keeping the momentum and pitting at the right time.
It definitely is. We always talk about tires, excuse me, in the Indy cars, especially with some of the newer ones with a slightly higher bit of tire wear. But tires are always important on these Indy ovals, including in this old school chassis with the IR05. And When you really want to pit and how your strategy works out, especially for this longer 201 lap race, is going to be really interesting. You want to go with the short pits, come down pit road a little bit earlier, maybe not take quite a full tank of fuel and get out there on newer tires earlier. Do you want to run it out and make less trips down pit road? Likely a couple different strategies we could see come into play as this race starts to get on and as the field rolls off.
Running on board with the driver of Josh Bard in the number whatever car, as he's just heading himself now onto the track. You can see, just looking to the right hand side as he merges on towards pit road. The field are heading themselves onto the track to get themselves the one and only qualifying lap here, pace lap even here today. Before we start 200 laps here at Twin Ring Motegi, as the drivers now line themselves 2 by 2, getting ourselves ready then for the start of the second round of the Classic IndyCar Series. It is Matt Cook on pole position, number 4 machine. Alongside him are Randy Shoemake as they enter turn number 3. 200 laps here. Our coverage today brought to you by Logykal Innovative Engineering as the pace car darts itself to the left-hand side. We are ready to go racing here in the Classic IndyCar Series. Green flag in the air, and Cook gets the early advantage, Randy.
He definitely didn't want to wait, did he? They're 3 wide for second behind. Sage Karam on the outside, Shoemake in the middle, and it's going to be Andrew Aiken running that bottom groove, and Karam's going to be the loser in that little fight. We'll also look behind. You see that red, white, and blue car of Matt Molnar. He wants to get racy going into turns 3 and 4 for the first time, and this is perfect for the 6 car of Matt Cook. That means he's going to be able to just open up a huge gap and just basically have a very young O-esque first lap.
Yeah, we're on board with Sage Cameron right now on the number 8 car. Of course, he never ran this configuration. It was last used in 2012, I believe, here in the Verizon IndyCar Series as it was then known. But Sage Cameron working himself up into 5th position, maybe, as they go side by side in towards turn number 3 and 4 on lap number 2 of this event. It's a 201 lap race here today. Live timing and scoring will be available in just 1 moment's time. But the thing is, Randy, we've had a very clean start here, and most of you drivers got themselves single file side by side in the middle part of your pack, but no early dramas.
Oh, Sage Karam way up the racetrack on the exit of turn 2, though. He's trying to really be that one driver in the front and towards the front of the field, running a second line. But you're right, side by side in your mid-pack, Josh Baird is in here, Daniel Schoolmeister as well, and Johnny Garrett, all wheel to wheel as they run through turns number 3 and 4. It can be difficult running side by side through this tighter side of the racetrack, as that bottom groove can sometimes be a little bit tighter, but of course it is the shorter way around. But if you're up top, you can get yourself a nice run off the corner as they stay side by side in your mid-pack through 1 and 2 now.
Yeah, and Sage Cameron was still running in that 5th position, but behind you got battles going on. This is P number 11, P number 12, Johnny Garrett there. We can see him looking down to the low slide as he heads himself down towards turn number 3 and 4. The battle's going on really from 10th through 14th on track right now, Randy. And we go on board with Johnny Garrett, and he is at that stage of the race running now actually on 13th place. He's lost position to Jan Hoffman.
Yeah, so not a great situation, and it looks like he might lose even more as Ariel Guerrero Jr. has a bit of a run behind, but Ariel right up against the wall on the exit of 2. I'd say a little too close for comfort when you're only on lap 5 of a 201 lap race, as it now run through 3 and 4, and Ariel's going to get that little bit of a run on Johnny through the center of the corner, but off to 68. Seems to have that advantage and that little bit of momentum, but maybe parking that car on the apex just for those opening couple laps. And gotta say, Will, what a start for Matt Cook. 6 laps in and 1.3 second advantage over Randy Shoemake.
On board right now with Sage Karam as he's looking down Randy down to the inside of Matt Minot in towards turn number 2. He's not got the pass complete. He's going to stay alongside him as he comes in towards turn number 3 and 4.
He is, and he's going to aggressively dive it in down to the inside. And how much is he going to have to check it up to get that thing turned through 3 and 4? It's going to be quite a lot. So Mike will actually have a little bit of a run, but Sage does have the spot pretty comfortably as they come across the line in towards 1 and 2. Mike's going to dive it down now to the inside. This battle's not done quite yet, but Molnar is going to lift out of it. I think he clips the apron just a little bit. Timo Ice and Yemi is going to get and run as well as Tristan Hauser behind. Lucas Seville behind is going to make something of this. Now those two will be side by side in towards 3 and 4.
Yeah, we're looking on board of Matt Menard then in the number 29 machine as they exit themselves through turn number 3 and 4. It is two Logykal innovative engineering cars, the two Vortex racing cars, side by side in towards turn number 1. And actually what you see there as we're on board with Matt Menard is Lucas Seville heads himself up in towards P number 5, and now it's going to be a case of can Matt Menard just withstand the battle from Lucas Seville in towards turns number 3 and 4, and Seville running the high side right now is not going to be able to do so. Menard is up into 6th place.
Yeah, very well done from him. Team Ice and Yemi, the big loser, losing 2 spots, one to his teammate and the other to Matt Molnar. You also have a pair of Vortex cars of Robert Grosser and Tristan Hauser. They're basically reeling these two in because of the way they're fighting. So we might have 3 to 4 Vortex cars all in a fight. Line of stern here is actually the 08 car of Daniel Schoolmeister is going to be fighting with Tristan Hauser at the moment in towards 3 and 4. Really one of the last side-by-side battles we have out here on the racetrack. Everyone else just trying to get single file, and I think trying to mostly just get logging laps. Well, this tricky Japanese circuit is loose off of turn 4. Who is that? I think that was Hugo Hernandez. Big wiggle off of 4.
Yeah, so Hugo Hernandez then losing himself some positions as a consequence of that, but we still got side by side here up inside your top 10. This between Robert Grosser in the number 3 machine and Tristan Hulser in the number 56 car, but it looks as though that Robert Grosser is going to get that position made, and behind that you've also got the number 08 car, even I'll take that back, the 08 car. We're on board with him right now in the 08 car. He is starting to put pressure on Tristan Hauser in the battle for 9th.
Yeah, he's trying to just get there and reel him in, but being very, very difficult at the moment. Of course, we're 13 laps into the run, Will. So this is where with these guys, the car might start doing weird things. You're going to be about third of the way, maybe close to halfway through the fuel run at this point. The tires are going to start going away just a little bit. You might start playing with those weight jackers and those anti-roll bars. It didn't take long for us to start talking about this, did it? As they head through now 1 and 2. So this is going to be the part of the race where you're going to want to start playing with stuff, and you can potentially fix the handling of your race car. But if you get too fidgety in there, and if you get a little bit, oh, what does this button do, trying to find a little bit of lap time, could ruin the handling of your race car as well. Yeah, but Matt Cook out front, he's got a 1.2 second advantage right now over the driver of Randy Shoemaker. And have a look at the lap gaps as we see it on lap number 15 of 2:01. And Shoemaker has been closing in on both lap 12, lap 13 and lap 14. He's closed a total of 0.3 of a second. And of course, Randy, in terms of a 201 lap race, of course, every 100th of a second matters, and Shoemaker's keeping kind of like in the molds here with Matt Cook and the number 6 Canadian car. Yeah, he is, and that's sort of what Matt Cook really needs to do. He needs to just be as calm and cool as he can and just manage this gap for now. That said, it's a 201 lap race, and I think for either of these parties, I don't think you want to get over aggressive, because it'd be very unlikely that we go all 201 laps, excuse me, without a yellow. So I think if you're Randy Shoemaker, you have to understand that you are in all likelihood gonna get something that helps you bring this gap back down and in. And if you're Matt Cook, you don't want to push too hard trying to leave this gap open, because it's very likely that you get a caution and that lead just gets erased anyways. Yeah, what we've seen in classic IndyCar season, oh, we got a yellow for the first time. So our first yellow of the day is out, and that is secondary incident 2.
Yeah, Francis Sturm is involved in it, as well as Yedin Karlsson, but also carry on, Randy.
With Hugo Hernandez in the 72, he was the cause of it, and he was part of the secondary incident as well. Just running the middle line towards the exit of 3 and 4, he just got really, really loose and wasn't able to hold on, and he just got pretty much tagged by Caleb Weekly. And then after that, the 3 cars go up into the wall, and then I'm going to say Hugo did not a great job of holding the brake there and keeping his car stationary, and because of that, Jonathan Diggs was always trying to dodge a moving target. And he ended up basically just T-boning him on that front straightaway, and that tagged, I believe, another 2 cars, not 3. So not a great situation here in the first 16 laps of the race, Will, but we were just talking what cautions can do and how they can help you or hurt you, and we just got one.
Well, we're 18 laps into run here. A pit window is about 56 laps around here at Twin Ring Motegi, but you can see Matt Cook already down to the apron, and looks as though he is going to come on towards pit road. Tires are so critical here, Randy, that you're likely to come in anytime there's a run above 15 laps, and you can see the majority of your field all coming then on towards pit road.
Not really a surprise at all, is it? Especially for a lap like this. And actually, I don't see a single car running the alternate strategy and staying out there. So you're going to come down, you're going to want to take tires, and you're probably, if anything, Will, just going to want to get fuel, because I think that's the big thing, because we got far enough into this where we were thereabouts, a third of the way through the fuel run, and that's a little bit too far, I think, in the early goings for most teams to want to stay out and be able to really push it and maybe make something happen. See a couple drivers missing their pit box. For the most part, all our front runners in clean. Actually, Sage is still not in his pit box. Fourth place runner really struggling to get service on the car. He's not started his pit stop yet. Now he gets jacked up, and he's going basically to the back of the field.
He is, but let's not talk about the issue that we saw then on track, the exit of turn number 4. We call that the danger area around Twin Ring Motegi, Randy, because of the fact that of all the places that you can get the back end of the car loose, it is going to be turn number 4. As you can see your field coming through, and it is going to be Matt Cook who has the advantage as they roll back on track.
Yeah, you're right. Turns 3 and 4 here at Motegi. I mean, 1 and 2 is like any of the big ovals you will typically see IndyCars really race at. 3 and 4, I mean, it's almost like 1 and 2 a gateway. It's one of the only places you will ever see IndyCars on an oval really decelerate. And it's almost like a braking zone as you go into there, because like you said, you scrub about 40 to 50 miles per hour off your top speed going down the entry into turn 3 to make that apex in towards 3 and 4 and be able to rotate the corner, and then you're accelerating off. So it's a hard acceleration zone and it's a hard braking zone at that end of the racetrack, and that works the rear tires a little bit harder than a lot of these drivers might be used to. If they're used to the typical ovals, like let's say, I don't know, Auto Club, Michigan, Kansas, Kentucky, any of the 1.5 to 2 milers where you're basically easy flat all the way around, it's going to be very different. It's a very different feeling trying to sort this out here. Even some of the tighter tracks, like say at Phoenix, generally have enough aero, or even say turn 1 at Old Phoenix and even turn 1 at New Phoenix, you can carry a lot of speed there, and it's not really a hard braking zone the way it is here.
Well, you can see the drivers, they are going to line themselves side by side here at the restart. The lights are off in the iRacing first safety car. First, of course, the official partner of iRacing in terms of the rules and the regulations. As we get ourselves back to the green flag here, of course, Matt Cook's got to do all that work once again. He has got himself, though, a big advantage to Randy Shoemake in the first stage of this race. The lights are going to go in towards pit road. The pace car's going to go on towards pit road even. And it's going to be Matt Cook who brings the drivers back to green flag racing. Here comes the pace car on towards pit road, and here we go then once again for a green flag run here at Twin Ring Motegi.
Once again, Matt Cook's going to go early, and we see that gap start to open up over Randy Shoemake, but I don't think it's quite as good of a start as we saw in the early points of this race. Fanning out 2 wide, 3 wide, up and down the field. This 9-car Sage Karam is going to be fun to watch. The kid made himself known as an aggressive driver at the Indianapolis 500 on his rookie debut, and he's going to be really aggressive, dicing his way back through this field.
Yeah, I saw Sage Karam, of course, at the Porsche Sim Racing Summit, and he did some extraordinary driving there, but he's on board right now with him as he's up to 13th position as he manages to make the move over Ariel Gurria Jr. in the battle for 13th position on track, and Sage Karam though has got 1.4 seconds to the next driver ahead. What I did see there, Randy, is a lot of drivers go early and a lot of people who are sandbagging on that restart.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult things on these, isn't it? Is if you're coming to a restart and you have the attitude of, if I want to go, I want to go, you're going to be right up, you're going to be aggressive, you're going to be really kind of trying to pack the field and pack the cars in front of you as much as you can. Compare that to if you just want to be a little bit more calm, a little bit more cool, and just take that restart a little bit more patiently, it can cause you some problems in getting those cars back up to speed and potentially having that sort of accordion effect we always see. Josh Chin wheel to wheel with Tristan Hauser in towards turn 3. I know at Gateway, the tight side of the rate on the tight corner, the top side tends to be where you want to be, but here tonight the inside at 3 and 4 seems to be fast, as Josh has a big wiggle off of 4.
He does, and that's going to allow Tristan Hauser to go to the outside of him in towards turns number 1 and 2 once again. So Josh Chen does manage to keep that move into P number 9, but Tristan Hauser looking down maybe to the inside as they work themselves towards turns number 3 and 4 on track once again. It's a fast-paced race here today here, Randy, at Motegi, but we see Chin moving up to P number 9, but behind a lot of very close battles. Actually, we'll go on board with the driver of Josh Bard in the number 23 car. He is, of course, our onboard driver for today. He has got himself about a 5 tenths of a second gap towards Jan Hoffman and Tristan Hauser.
Yeah, he really does. He has Sage Karam that he's dealing with, though, currently behind. So it's been a great restart from Sage, already reeled in that 1 second and some change gaps that we saw earlier on. So you're going to see now that number 9 VRS Commando SimSport machine open up that margin now. But yeah, Josh Baird providing that virtual reality onboard camera, always nice to see. We've had that a handful of times while we've used it in some of our world championships. It's a really unique view that we're able to take advantage of here.
Yeah, Ace, of course. Mixer.com/Bard_Bard if you want to see the entire race on board with Josh Bard, but he's currently running in the 13th position. Out front, however, we've got ourselves Matt Cook with an 8 tenths of a second advantage over Randy Shoemake, but just behind, here we're having a look right now, and this is again 2 of the Logitech Vortex cars. They're going side by side. They are then running line stern once again into towards turn number 3. Well, on board of Tristan Hauser right now, he's got Jan Hoffman just ahead of him.
Yeah, and Yan's actually the car that just made up that spot, just made the pass this lap. So these 2 Vortex cars, they might be teammates and they might be running sister paint schemes, but they don't seem to really mind playing hard and playing rough with one another. And especially when you got that driver of Sage Karam, Commando SimSport car, really starting to apply the pressure and start pushing up here. And actually, let's see what happens as Hauser doesn't get quite a good run off of turn 2. He's going to be defensive in towards 3, but Sage doesn't look like he's thinking about making the move in towards 3 and 4 right here. Let's see what he does off the corner. A little bit of a push from Tristan Hauser, maybe some dirty air. Sage looks better off of 4.
Yeah, and on board of Sage Cameron right now as they head themselves down towards turn number 1. Sage Cameron, of course, he's got himself Commando SimSport affiliation, and he's got himself also the outside line maybe on the exit of turn number 2 as they head themselves down towards turn number 3 and 4. Sage Cameron, you can see us on board of him, running right to the outside line. He might get the run. He does get the run actually on the outside turn number 3 and 4. Sage Karam looking as though he's going to be in P number 11, but ahead of him, almost 3 wide there, Randy, in towards turn number 1, and that includes Josh Chin, Robert Grosser, and Jan Hoffman.
Yeah, Daniel Skolmeister involved in this as well. This is actually really turned into a 6-car battle. Daniel, not a good run off of turn 2. The Team Chimera driver of Josh Chin going to take a peek down to the inside. Will he be able to make this stick? He's going to dive it in hard, and he's going to be clear by the time they get to the mid-corner. Daniel not comfortable, I think, in the middle at 3 and 4, and that's going to stack up everyone behind him as Sage Karam is looking every side of the racetrack he can to find an opening to make something happen on these Vortex cars. Josh now going to try to open up the gap with this slight advantage he's been given, but this 5-car scrap really making things interesting, going from basically the tail end of your top 10 right up to just about your top 5.
Yeah, and of course, Josh Chen has almost won the IndyCar series in a number of different formats be it the iRacing official format, be it here in the Classic IndyCar Series, but also, of course, in the 16th Street Racing League. Josh Chin right now, though, is 1.2 seconds behind Timo Isiniemi, as we did see a big breakaway by your top 6 drivers as they got themselves a restart. And we see again, Matt Cook, your race leader, has got himself a 9/10 of a second advantage right now here, Randy, over Randy Shoemake as they head past the start of finish line to complete number 32 of 201.
Yeah, he does, but remember, this is sort of the time frame of that first run where we saw Shoemake start reeling that battle and start reeling that lead back down and in. So even though it's a bit of an advantage right now for Matt Cook, I think we're going to see that 4-car potentially start bringing that gap back down and in. You mentioned Josh, actually, Will, and I think it's something interesting because we always talk about the eras is behind, actually. Sage Karam's looking to make a move on Daniel Schoolmeister, and he's going to get that pass done. So Sage Karam, after a disaster pit stop, has done beautiful work to get himself back up into P number 8, and is going to try to reel in that Team Chimera car of Josh Chin. But talking about the different eras we've had of IndyCar here, not even just in real life, but on the iRacing service, Josh is really, I think, the only driver to be able to stand out in all of the different cars and all the different formats we've had, from this IR05 to the DW12 and now over to the IR18. He's been competitive at Indianapolis with the iRacing official Indy 500 for basically, I mean, we're pushing 10 years now. He really has, I think, kind of solidified himself as the iconic IndyCar driver on the service across all of the formats we've had.
Well, yeah, and of course, we are going to go have ourselves the 10th anniversary of the iRacing Indy 500 this time by, but Sage Karam, he wants to go down to the inside of Joshua Chin as they head themselves down towards turns at number 3 and 4, and Sage Karam will easily just breeze his way through there. And Sage Karam then, in the Hoyksonveld car, will head himself up towards P number 7 on track, and Sage Karam showing his oval specialties once again. But Matt Cook continues to lead the way, and actually, because he's worked through some light traffic right now, the gap is between himself and Shoemake down to 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, last time by, Shoemake made himself up just a 10th, and there's been, I think, a lot more coming through this lap with the lap traffic. So Shoemake maybe a little bit better on the long runs here. I mean, even that was the lap Shoemake had to deal with the lap traffic as well, and he was still about 0.2 quicker than Matt Cook was that trip around the racetrack. So we might be seeing some differences in sort of strategy and how you play with the tires, Will, and sort of the ebbing and flowing of pushing hard in the early phases of the race, maybe burning the tires up, and then taking a little bit easy and maybe keeping those tires underneath you is what Randy Shoemake seems to be up to, as he's reeled in a lot of time and not a very long period of time.
Early retirees in this race, just to let you know, by the way, we've got ourselves Carlson out early, Hugo Hernandez, as well as Logan Simmons. They are all out. Caleb Weekly is on pit road.
Oh, we might be adding to that Timo Isiniemi. We got a yellow.
We're going to get ourselves a yellow then. That number 38 of 201, and Timo Isiniemi. There we can see him. No front wing to that car at all, and a lot of damage then to that number 43 car. Here's a replay, Randy, coming up.
And again, we mentioned it after we had that previous restart. Turn 4 is the danger zone, and it's the same situation for Timo. He just comes off the corner, and I don't know if it was a big sniff of dirty air from Matt Molnar. I don't know if he was trying to get over aggressive and dice it down to the inside, but those rear wheels kicked out very, very late into that corner, and Timo just loses that back end, no way to hold on to it, and he just noses in towards the wall. That car, he hit the wall pretty good, Will, but he didn't really bounce it along the wall. I think if there's any damage to that car, it should primarily be to the front wing. That said, he did take a tow, so it's going to be a while for him before he can get those repairs, but I'm almost curious if he can potentially swap out that front wing and then be back out there on the racetrack, but I'm suspecting we'll see the entire field down pit road once again. Yeah,
once again, as lap number 39 and 201 will be scored complete this time by. We're going to take you side by side here, ladies and gentlemen, on Racesport TV as we bring you the second round of pit stops here in the Classic IndyCar Series. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we look from the rear of Matt Cook in the number 6 Aero X racing machine. He has led every single lap here today. The lights are still on the pace car here, Randy, but for Aero X Racing, they've had themselves a good start to this motor race.
They really have. I mean, it's been an absolutely picture-perfect kind of run for Matt Cook, isn't it? And strategically, I think Aero X really have their things sorted out, Will, because... well, you might say, well, they don't seem to have the pace on the long run, and you get 15 or so laps in to make, maybe about 20 laps in. You see the likes of that 4-car of Randy Shoemake able to start reeling that gap back down and in and really make a fight for the race lead and be quicker than Matt Cook as the lights go out and we would be going green next time by. It's also just a good sort of awareness of what's likely to happen with race trends, Will, from Aero X. Basically saying we can run a slightly faster car early to open that gap up because it's so likely that by about 20 laps into the run we're going to have a self spinner or some sort of incident off of turn 4, and so far that's been the case for this race. We're what, 42 laps into this race and 2 self spinners off of 4 already.
Yeah, we're on board with Sage Karam right now because Sage Karam has had a bad first pit stop. The second pit stop wasn't as bad. He's running in P number 6 right now. His last pit stop time was 7.7. That is better than a lot of the drivers ahead of him. Sage Karam will be very important as we come to the restart, Randy.
He was very fast both at the start of the race, and he worked his way through the traffic after that nightmare pit stop and went basically from the top 5 all the way down to about P20 thereabouts. So we saw him be aggressive on the last restart. He's going to be even more so, I think, trying to get himself back into the top 5 and trying to hound that 6-car Matt Cook.
Here we are then, going to see the drivers head himself past the start-finish line in just one moment's time. Pace car going to go on towards pit road, and we are ready to go racing. Once again, a green flag in the air as we see 42 or 200 laps scored complete, Randy, and they all look single file then down in towards turn number 1.
Yeah, all of them except a purple, black, and white machine of Sage Karam. He's going to try to make it 2 spots through 1 and 2 for the first time, and he's going to drive around both Lucas Laville and Matt Molnar. Not quite clear, though, and they might go 3 wide in towards 3 and 4. Molnar is going to lift out of that, and you have the likes of Josh Chin and Daniel Schoolmonster behind just watching this, wondering if they can maybe take advantage. Sage will get the advantage off the corner, and way up the racetrack goes Lucas Laville, and he's about to get freight trained in towards 1 and 2. The 29 of Matt Molnar is going to be the first one to pick him up. Josh Chin next in line.
Yeah, but Sage Karam is up into the 4th position on track. He's got himself ahead of both Matt Molnar and Lucas Laville. So move Sage Karam up into P number 4 on track behind. He's got very close racing going on down at the rear end of your top 10. Look at that. They're almost side by side, Josh Chin and Lucas Laville right now as they exit out of turn number 4 towards start finish line. Josh Chin has to fall down into P number 7.
Yeah, Josh is doing, I think, best he can to make something of this. He kind of threw his race away, and at Interlagos was really one of the dominant cars. Got given the race lead and the potential for the race win, and wrecked exiting pit road for what would have been, I believe, the final pit stop. 2 machine in front there. Lucas Laville going to make the move on Matt Molnar, but makes it too late and has to get way out of the throttle, coming back up onto the front straightaway. That gives Josh Chin a big run, and they might just about go 3 wide in towards 1 and 2. No, the Camaro driver is going to back out of that, and he's just going to play patient right now and let these 2 work side by side in front of him and just try to pick his opportunity a little bit more, let's say, patiently. We saw Sage Karam basically dive in there and say, I want these spots now. Josh playing a little bit more patient as the 2 sends it into 3.
Yeah, Molnar initially had the advantage but falls back down into the 6th position as here comes Josh Chin then on the inside of Matt Molnar in towards this turn number 1 and 2, and Josh Chin gets himself up into P number 6. Can he hold it, as I say, side by side for the corner behind? Also, you've got yourself the battle going on between Tristan Heuser and David Schumacher as they head themselves down towards turn number 3 and 4. We're on board actually right now with the driver of Daniel Schumacher as he exits turn number 4, but he's not quite close enough there to go into the rear of Tristan Heuser.
Yeah, not quite yet, but they're still very, very close, and especially with this fight in front of them, between Molnar and Josh Chin. It might really affect their battle. You see the 29 not quite having the speed. This is going to allow Tristan to actually nearly pull alongside with that 29 car. So this Vortex machine wants to make something of this and pick this spot up around the outside of 3 and 4. We've seen the bottom line tend to be where you want to be, but Molnar doesn't seem to really have the pace at the moment, and the Vortex car is going to pick that spot up. Next in line is going to be Daniel. Let's see what he can do. Going to be a similar situation through 1 and 2, but that middle groove, because 1 and 2 is so easy flat. The entry is very good, but Molnar actually clips the apron down there in the middle, and that hands that position easily to Daniel Schoolmeister.
Yeah, on board right now with Molnar as he's fallen down into 9th place on track as we are working ourselves through lap number 49 of lap 201. But actually, Molnar gets a good run off the corner because Tristan Hoyser went way wide there through turn number 3 and 4.
Yeah, he did, and this is sort of a mistake we've been seeing people consistently make in this mid-pack, isn't it, Will? I think it may be a little bit due to the dirty air, but occasionally we're seeing drivers come off these corners. Sometimes it's turn 2, and actually big incident. The 29 gets spun around. We're going to go under yellow again, and Matt Molnar, a victim of circumstance there as Hauser through turn 2 just gets tight. I was talking about the dirty air. Hauser finds the wall and just comes down and clips that 29 car.
Yeah, Matt Molnar had no rear wing even, and that meant he couldn't steer that car. But there's a replay of the incident from Matt Molnar. Let's rewind that a little bit and let's show it for you towards turn number 1 as we see Matt Molnar on the inside line in the number 29 car. He's got himself the car on the outside and the two come together and Matt Molnar just hits a rear wing, and then as he tries to accelerate, the front wing doesn't work from either. So we're going to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen, here on Racesport TV and then iRacing Live. We'll be back with more after this. let's go on board then with Josh Bard right now as he runs himself in the 12th position as he tries to look down to the inside of Adrian Gray Jr. This is the battle for 11th place on track, but Bard cannot do anything right now over that number 11 machine here, Randy.
No, he can't, and we've seen Josh Bard in the early goings. He was being pretty racy and able to get up in some fights, but he's tended to, over the last 20 to 30, actually nearly 40 laps, really kind of fall backwards. So not been a great situation for him in terms of that. I think maybe really struggling with that car. We just brought the temperatures up once again, and even the wind will, the 15-mile-an-hour wind, if nothing else, actually it's toned down just a little bit. It's actually down to about 6 miles an hour, so that's not as much of an issue now. But I think that's why you're seeing so many drivers really struggle here, as actually Tristan Hauser involved in a fight with Vaso Olia in that very light green finish livery car.
Yeah, as back towards the front of the field, Randy Shoemaker right now has a gap of about 8 tenths of a second, almost 9 tenths of a second between Matt Cook and Randy Shoemaker. And Shoemaker is trying everything he can do possibly to keep in the draft range right now, but he cannot do so here, Randy. And that gap is likely to go over 1 second. That's going to give a bit of breathing room to Matt Cook and the number 6 Aero X machine.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, this is what we've been seeing all race long, haven't it? Is Matt Cook, Matt Cook able to just basically open up this big gap, and right around the time Shoemaker starts closing it in, he just sort of catches a yellow, and he's never ever really challenged. He, of course, just went green on lap number 55. Actually, Matt Cook just ran his quickest lap of the race on lap 56, just about 10 laps ago. But we're only about 8 or so laps from about the time period we see Shoemaker start reeling that number 6 car back down and in. And once he gets to about half a second, that's when I think we're going to expect the yellow to come out based on the way the rest of these runs have gone.
We're on board right now with Andrew Wood, the number 32 machine, as they come past the start-finish line once again. And he's going to be passed then by Marshall Stanley in towards turn number 1. That was a high-side move there, Randy, in towards turn number 1.
That it was. You can make the move from that outside. It's a good move for Marshall, being able to make that stick, knowing to commit and being able to actually get clear, know you're clear, and actually being able to diamond off the exit of the corner wheel over Andrew Wood. You need to hit that low line, especially in the exit of 2, to really help your top speed, and Marshall played that pretty much perfectly as Andrew Wood falls a little bit now behind as they work through 1 and 2 once again.
Yeah, and Stanley right now, we're on board of him as he tries to close up to the rear of Robert Grosser in the number 3 machine even, as they come towards turn number 3 and 4 once again. This is at number 69 or 201 here at Motegi, and Stanley to the outside, then back down to the inside once again. He couldn't make the move working towards turn number 1, but he has got much, much closer.
He does, and Robert Grosser was very aggressive defending there over Marshall Stanley, not wanting to let him get up and maybe pick up a spot there as they work themselves now down towards turns number 3 and 4. And let's see, Stanley still not close enough, and he actually doesn't really reel anything in on the entry in towards 3 and 4. Maybe he'll have the advantage to the center and off the corner, and look at the run that he has. Robert Grosser and the Vortex cars have just seemed not to be that great coming off the corner. As Stanley, he can reel in about a car length on the exit of turn 4, but it seems everywhere else the Vortex cars seems a little bit better, and Robert Grosser seems to able to just eke it out little by little through 1, 2, and 3, but it's turn 4 where Stanley behind is really good at the moment.
But of course, you've got to remember how long these drivers have had on their tyres and how well they can do over a full course run. So look from the rear of Robert Grosser there, you can see behind him Marshall Stanley and Andrew Wood as they battle for 8th, 9th, and 10th positions on the racetrack. Stanley look closing towards turn number 1, but again, he's about 2 car lengths back as they work themselves through turn number 2. But this is where Stanley actually is pretty good, but he's not quite close enough to make the pass as they're coming towards turn number 3 and 4 once again. Behind, you got yourself Jan Hoffman. He's in a battle, and we'll go on board with Jan Hoffman actually in the number 05 car. He's got himself Adriel, and in fact he's passed the the double 11 car actually as they come towards turn number 1, Randy, and Jan Hoffman is up to P number 11.
Yeah, but he's got that spot. He's going to push a little bit off of turn 2, and Ariel's going to try to make something of this. Runs a slightly shorter exit off 2 and works the draft down this back straightaway in towards turn 3 and into 4. Nothing's going to be going of it. So Jan Hoffman has that spot done and is now up in towards P11. Josh Baird also just off the rear wing of Ariel Guerrero Jr. watching this fight unfold out in front of him. I will say, Will, we always talked about it in this series. We're still 25 laps away from the half point of this race, and we're only 9 minutes or so thereabouts out from the halfway point of the time limit. So we're starting to get close to where the time limit might come into effect if these guys can't get a long green flag run underneath them.
Yeah, we need about 5 cautions before the time will come into play, but we are less than halfway through this event as we look at the number 11 car, but also the number 23 machine of Josh Bard right behind. We're on board, and the double picture then with Josh Bard in towards turn number 1 once again, and Bard can't really do anything of that the double 11 car even of Ariel Guerrero Jr. as he head himself down the back straightaway once again.
They can't make anything of it just yet, although to the inside actually would go Baird. Ariel a little bit wide through turns 3 and 4. That's going to check him up on the entry, and he actually doesn't get the Logykal car spinning off of 4, I think, and I believe it was saved. I think it was the red and white, or excuse me, the blue and white car of Andrew Wood that was sideways off of 4. Big wiggle, and he's able to keep that underneath him, and because of that we stay green, but I would keep an eye on him over these next couple laps off of 4, because if that's a sign that his tires are going, it may not just be, he may have an unsavable spin coming up here soon.
Here's the replay then on board of the number 32 machine of Andrew Wood, and yeah, the back end kicks out. He doesn't lose it completely, but he loses a lot of speed. And Andrew Wood, that's very lucky, Randy, because that could have been a caution.
Definitely could have been, and even especially for him, because he's now going to be struggling on rear tires. Once you slide those tires like that, Will, you crank a bunch of temp into them, and considering you're already on 109-degree track temp, actually he's going to try to make a pass on the 23 of Josh Baird. We nearly had Ariel Guerrero Jr. making it 3 wide with them, so let's see Andrew, a little bit of a wiggle to the center of 3 and 4. Can he hold on to it on the exit? Yes, he can, but that 32 car right now is just struggling as behind. I see a very racy looking Tristan Hauser trying to take advantage of the 3 cars in front of him, duking it out so hard. Off the corner, and we got a car on the wall. Ariel Guerrero Jr. Big contact off of 2.
Okay, so we stay green, but Junior does hit the wall. Randy, talk us through it on the exit of turn number 2.
It was just so many cars. I think all the cars in front of Ariel really stacked up in terms of giving him dirty air, and he just never was able to get that car turned in. We've seen it a couple times. I don't really think he was forced into the wall. I know he was trying to set up a run on Josh Baird to make something happen, but Josh just sort of ran his track out point, and I really do think Ariel just got tight and plowed that into the wall off of turn 2. So we're starting to see the grip levels come down, Will. We've seen a couple cars with scary wiggles off of 4, and there's sort of the other issue we've had a couple times here today of cars plowing the wall off of turn 2. Second one we've seen do it today.
Matt Cook is about to come up behind lap traffic here as he heads himself through turn number 1. He's got himself a 1.7 second advantage over Randy Shoemaker as they work through turns number 1 and 2. Lap traffic gets well out of the way, but Shoemaker is not able to stay anywhere near Matt Cook right now in this battle for your race lead.
No, he isn't. He's really not had the pace that we've seen him have through the first couple of runs, and he hasn't reeled in that 1.6 second advantage the way that I'd say, expected him to, just given the way he was able to in the previous run. So maybe a couple changes have been made to Matt Cook's car, Will. You know, tire pressures, wing angles, all things that you have to play with when you come down pit road. And maybe Matt Cook has really helped the ability for that car to keep the tires underneath it and keep the pace going with these longer runs.
Well, on board of Francesco Sturm. He's the driver that has gone a lap down. His second place has gone past him, while third and fourth place cannot get past in towards turn number 1 and 2. So Sturm in number 34 car is now the back marker. He's lost himself the lap, as you can see that going to split him in towards turn number 2 there, Randy, and that's fantastic. And what we see actually is the driver of Sage Karam heading himself up into 3rd place.
Yeah, he really did. Fantastic move there by Sage Karam, doing what he had to do to get into that 3rd spot. And that, I think, is just racecraft. Will Andrew Aitken, I don't know what he was trying to do with the lap car of Joseph Stum running the middle of the racetrack. You never want to give up that inside line through 1 and 2 here at Motegi. That's always where you want to be, even if it means to get a little bit of dirty air. And he ran the middle where Stum tried to sort of stay out of the way and get out of the racing line, and it really hurt Aitken. And Sage Karam was like, I'll take that position, Andrew, thank you very much.
Yeah, there's a replay on board of Sage Karam in the number 9 machine. Heads himself down to the inside, takes the ultra low line actually, and is able to keep that one going. So Sage Karam up into 3rd place in this event, and actually that's a very good move there through traffic. But behind, you got yourselves Lucas Seville right on the rear of Josh Chin as they head themselves through turns number 3 and 4 once again. Lap number 85 with 2:01 going to score complete next time around. But actually, Seville was closing but cannot find a way past Josh Chin.
Yeah, he really has. Seville right under the rear wing, though, of Josh Chin. Bit of a wiggle, I think, from the Vortex car, and a bigger one from Josh on the exit of 4, right up against the outside wall. That was well held, and is going to give a run to Lucas Seville through turn 2. Now, if you're Lucas, maybe run a slightly higher line to get some clean air. It's exactly what he's going to do. Josh is going to come off the corner, and the Vortex car will get a bit of momentum coming down this back straightaway in towards turn 3. Will Lucas dive it into turn 3? Actually, no. So Lucas being very patient here and setting this pass up.
Indeed so. So the Vortex Sim Racing driver, Lucas Seville, the number 2 machine, cannot do anything over Josh Chin just yet. Well, this is a great battle going on inside of your top 10. Behind, as actually Seville has got himself past now Josh Chin. You can see that there live. What we've also got is very close battles going on towards the rear end and outside of your top 10. We go on board right now with Josh Bard. He's in a battle with Tristan Hoyser, and he's been losing time to Hoyser over the last 2 laps.
Yeah, he has. The last couple laps have not been nice to him. He's dropped about half a, two tenths every single trip around the racetrack. Luckily for him, the 96 behind him is basically losing the sort of equivalent speed. That said, Tristan Hauser, not a great run off of turn 4, and they're going to go wheel to wheel into 1.
Yeah, and Bard's going to go down to the inside in towards turn number 1. Can he hold it as he exits through turn number 2? I don't think he's going to be able to, actually. It's going to be Tristan Hoyser who is going to get himself the advantage on the exit of turn number 2. So Tristan Hoyser will remain in the 11th position, and it will be Tristan Hoyser then just holding on. But on the exit turn number 4, Josh Bard is going to try once again round the outside, Randy.
Yeah, Tristan got that big wiggle we've been seeing people snatch off of turn 4 in the 56. I think the 3rd driver this run to keep that car underneath them and hold on to it. Josh Baird will take advantage, and he will pick that spot up and get a run to potentially put Jonathan Diggs in the rearview mirror as well. Of course, that car is not on the same lap, so putting him a lap down is what that number 23 is going to try to do, and put that lap car between himself and Lucas Seville, and Tristan Hauser, excuse me. But Hauser is going to get the run as Baird gets checked up, dealing with the lap traffic. 56 to the inside, 3 wide into turn 1, and Hauser is going to snatch the spot right back.
Yeah, so Bard will work himself back down into the 12th position. Tristan Hoyser work himself back up into the 11th position here on Racewat TV. This is lap number 91 of 2-0 run. Of course, Randy, this is the longest green flag run of the day so far, and Bard and also Hoyser continue to battle for P number 11, and also behind we've got side by side, and this is actually Andrew Adair Saunders. I think he's had an issue.
Maybe we might have to wait and see what has happened to this 12 car, if anything. And it's the same big wiggle, Will. He just got loose coming off of turn 4. 4th car in this run to hold on to that slide and keep it underneath them. So everyone right now, Will, I mean, the 106 degree track temp, everyone, 107 even now, degree track temp is playing with fire. And who is going to be the car this run that gets burned? Because everyone just doesn't seem to have the arrow on the rear end or anything, whatever it is they need to do to keep those rear tires alive. They need, I think they wish they could just put stones on there instead of rubber, just to keep that temperature as far down as they can.
Andrew Ennis almost falls down into the 16th position on the racetrack. He's actually got Mike Logykal behind him right now, as already Todd Nosad has gone past him. But out front, one thing that is worth noting here, Randy, is the fact that Matt Cook has got himself a 1.6 second advantage over Randy Shoemake. Now, Shoemake did close up the last time by a part of the start-finish line, but let's have a look at lap number 93, as Matt Cook does a time of 30.8, and Shoemake is 1/10 of a second slower.
Yeah, we're seeing these lap times amongst your race leaders. Everyone in the top 6 really running identical laps. Daniel Shoemeister sort of in that ballpark as well, and they're all just kind of trading laps back and forth. You know, one lap, Matt Cook might open that advantage a little bit. You know, Sage Karam was actually the quickest of the top 6 that last trip around the racetrack. So any of these top 6 cars will, I think if you can get them grouped up, I think the fights will be actually pretty immense to watch, because they all seem to be even on speed. But for some reason, they just all get separated at the start of the race. And Matt Cook, I think, just needs someone in that second spot to really challenge him on the restart, because it just seems like we've seen Matt open up a big advantage every single time we go green, and we need someone, be it Randy Shoemake, be it Sage Karam, who's actually reeling in Randy Shoemake out in front of him to really hound that number 6 car once we go back to green.
Further down, Robert Grosser has been gaining over Daniel Shoemeister in the 0-8 car. The gap between the two of them is 0.3 of a second as they exit turn number 4 once again, and they both seem level. Of course, Randy, we talk about the in-car adjustment, and some drivers are going to be more aggressive on that in-car adjustment compared to others.
Yeah, it is one of those things, and it might be one of those things that you're always going to be playing with while we're seeing these big sort of half spins off turn 4. Sage Karam, maybe he's hit on something in the in-car tools, because he is looking mighty fast in the third spot right now. He just did a 30.680, just a couple hundredths of a second quicker than Matt Cook out in front. But the in-car tools are always things you're going to have to play with. You have anti-roll bars front and rear, you can soften and stiffen, but the big one on the ovals tends to be the weight jacker that adjusts that right rear ride height up and down depending on what you want that car to do. Basically just straight up loosen or tighten what that race car does and how it will feel, and that's going to play a big effect. Will, I'd say today is going to be one of those days that you're not going to want to be as aggressive with it, just because those temps are so hot. It's not going to take a long time. You know, if you crank that weight jacker up, I know a lot of teams, they actually build these cars to be fast with a lot of weight jacker in it, and I think that's a good way to start killing your right rear and find yourself really struggling with the spins. Once we get deep into the run, maybe we'll see what that might be what people are struggling with today. And Sage gets a big run off of 4, and he may make something of this into 1.
Yeah, but he's not quite close enough, as actually as they're coming towards turn number 1 once again. So Sage Karam running 3rd place in that Kiwana Sim Sports car. He's got himself Randy Shoemake in the Aero X racing machine just ahead, but Randy looks like Sage Karam is trying to look to the outside, but not able to do so.
Sage isn't looking as aggressive as he was earlier on in the race. I think he knows that this is a car that he's going to have to work a little bit harder to get around. Shoemake has some speed. The grip on the tires is going away. There's no need to be as aggressive. We're just about to cross the halfway point next trip around the racetrack. That said, Sage slots to the inside through corners number 1 and 2. You also have some lap traffic up in front of Jonathan Diggs and Johnny Garrett. So let's see how they're going to play with this as well. 2 lap cars, one of which is actually putting the slower one a lap behind itself, and they're both going to go to the inside to deal with the first one, but they have Johnny Garrett just feeding him a ton of dirty air as they come off turn 4. And look at the run these two get compared to the 68.
They do, and actually this is the longest run that these drivers have done all day long. So what we can tell you is, in terms of this race, that Sage Karam right now, in terms of the stint, he has done, what, not 101 laps. That's because, of course, of the green flag. But Sage Karam and Randy Shoemake, they all came on towards pit road the last time by. So the tyres are starting to go away, and all of these drivers, but Matt Cook has had an advantage behind. We had themselves a little bit of calamity, shall we say, as we see one driver on towards pit road. That is Todd Novak. He is on towards pit road, but also Andrew Aitken on towards the lane here, Andy.
And he's going to be the notable one because he was running P4 at the time. I believe he's probably had a couple of other pit stops as well as Joshua Chin. Yep, he's been down on pit road and is now off. So race leaders now coming down and making pit stops, and let's see what's going to happen here. Sage Karam, he's going to be rolling down on towards pit road this time as well. So Matt Cook and Randy Shoemake, the two out in front of the field that have yet kind of to come down pit road. Everyone else behind who is sort of in touch with that lead group, let's say, has yet to actually pull down and hit the pits on what has been about a 50-lap run.
Yep, so there is Sage Karam coming on towards pit road. He is side by side with a competitor as he comes in towards his pit stall. And here is Sage Karam in towards his box then. And, well, we've seen 10.1. That's the benchmark to beat. And Sage Karam is going to do a long stop, 11.4 seconds out and away, Randy.
Long stop from him. Matt Cook and Randy Shoemake, they also come down pit road on the same lap. So these two drivers are going to work themselves down towards their boxes on both first and I believe it'll be second on the pit road. So let's see what happens with these two. Matt Cook will be the first one to make the box.
Yeah, so Matt Cook comes on towards pit road in the iRacing car. Randy Shoemake there right behind him. Shoemake actually angled better because of the fact that he's got the arc out towards pit road. But a 10.8 seconds then for Matt Cook as he comes out on track once again. For Randy Shoemake, he does a 10.5 second pit stop as he heads himself back onto the racing surface.
Yeah, maybe a slightly better pit stop, but it actually seems like it's advantage towards Matt Cook for sure, as Randy Shoemake just is not in a great position, did not get a good run, I think, coming off of pit road, and that margin between those two has really opened up. But someone who's really, I think, brought the gap down, Will, couple extra laps of short stopping. We always talk about what you can do with the short stop, and that Matt Cook has a very aggressive number 9 car of Sage Karam, not far off the rear view mirror. So we might have a new person to fight and represent this second place battle. It's going to be the 9 car of Sage Karam when the other 7 cars who have yet to pit eventually cycle on a pit road.
Yeah, it's worth noting though that Sage Karam did an 11.4 second pit stop. He's only 1 second behind Matt Cook as they exit themselves through the final corner. We're over halfway then through this, the second round of the Classic IndyCar Series presented by Logykal Innovative Engineering, as through turn number 1 comes Sage Karam, and actually that gap's up now to 1.3 seconds. So Sage Karam has lost out a little bit here, but actually this field is spread out because of these green flag pit stops here, Randy. Sage Karam's working himself through some light traffic, but one thing that is worth noting is that Randy Shoemake is behind Sage Karam now.
Yeah, and he's behind by a pretty good margin as well. It's not like he's right on the rear wing. So not a great pit stop, I think, if you're Randy Shoemake, because not only did he lose time in relation to Sage Karam, but he's lost a lot of time to the car he needed to keep up with of Matt Cook. So if you're Randy Shoemake, not a great situation. I got a bit of a technical question for you, Will. We've seen Matt Cook historically here on the iRacing service in the IndyCar. He seems to be a fan of the IR05. I mean, he does race the other cars, but I think this is the one he really specializes in, is when we really saw him kind of have his reign of dominance. Think he ever gets tired of racing Randy's, because he's had to deal with Randy Crosno, he's had to deal with me, Randy Chinworth, and he was dealing with Randy Shoemake for a good chunk of today. That's a disproportionately large number of Randys he's had to deal with through his career.
He has as well, and of course Matt Cook has had some fantastic records at this racetrack. We're looking at Shoemake versus Aitken. The gap is 1.6 seconds, but there is a look then towards Matt Cook. Coming past the start-finish line, his pit stop time was 10.8 seconds. In fact, actually, it was the fastest in lap that we've seen inside of your top 2. But worth noting that both Aitken, Shoemake, LaVille was technically faster on towards pit road here, Randy, but Matt Cook had a better outlap compared to anyone.
And that's going to be the big difference, especially, Will, one of the unique rules of this series is how you actually have to enter pit road, because while you can technically try to be aggressive and at least as per iRacing's rules, try to enter pit road, say between the center of 3 and 4. These guys, they want you entering on the back straightaway before you actually get to the banking of turn 3. So you have to dip down to the apron and roll all the way around, and then you have to roll the apron all the way through 1 and 2 before you get to the back straightaway. And anyone who's ever attempted an iRacing official Indy 500 qualifying run will tell you, you have these cars built, Will, to work on the banking and try to keep them up to speed on that flat tarmac. Not as much aero because you're not going very fast. These cars can be a handful, and Matt Cook, because all his experience and really nearly 10 years of running this car on the iRacing service, he's one of the best at it.
Here is Jan Hoffman on towards pit road in the 05 Diaz machine, the Logykal even Vortex sim racing car on towards pit road. Let's have a look at the pit stop then. Going to take some tyres, of course, on that 05 machine, as is standard, and out and away. A long stop, 10.7 seconds actually. Not too bad for Jan Hoffman as he comes back onto the racetrack here, Randy, but he will fall out into P number 10 almost, because Logykal has not yet pitted, Pitkin has not yet pitted, and Matt Cook is leading the drivers who have pitted in this race so far under green.
Yeah, so he should be queued to pick up a couple spots, but what will be nice, Will, for these drivers who have actually come down pit road a little bit later, that they'll sort of have the opposite of the undercut. They'll have slightly newer tires compared to some of those drivers who came out early. But that said, those drivers have been on new tires for a while now and been opening that gap up. So if you plan to go long, I'm not too far against this strategy, as we still have actually the 31 of Mike Gerlicka actually yet to come down pit road, I believe, and he's out there currently leading this race. And this might be interesting in terms of fuel numbers, because let's see, when would we would have been green on about lap 55. He's working towards 60 laps on this fuel run. I don't think there's any way you can make it to the end from here, and the 31 looks like he's likely entering pit road. Yes, he is. But still, that's a long fuel run, and he might be able to set himself up for a really short stop. I don't think Mike Gerlicka will be anywhere close to being in it for the win here today, but for the cars he's been fighting with, Will, going this late, he's going to have a really, really short final stop compared to the rest of his competition, probably in somewhere in the realms of 20 to 30 laps less in terms of fuel.
Yeah, as Gerlicka is on towards pit road right now in the number 31 machine, heading on towards the stall here, Randy. And often what we say is 10 seconds is your margin. You go above 10 seconds, it's a full pit stop. You go below that, you're short for the car. And Gerlicka is out and away in 11.7 seconds.
Yeah, so he would have been, he ran that fuel tank dry, didn't have much fuel in the car, and he had to fill that up. And part of what's going to see that, you know, well, what about these other drivers who filled the tank up that were somewhere in the 10-second margin? They likely had a bit of fuel left in the reserve, Will, probably a handful of gallons, 2, 3, 4. Because of that, that cuts down that fill time considerably and takes a second off of it, which is why you see a lot of these guys will run that sort of short fill. They have the flexibility to potentially go for a long run if they feel they can do so, but it's never great to just have that little bit of weight out of the car. You always want to have the shorter pit stop. It's a bigger gain having a 2 to 2 seconds chopped off the pit stop than it is having a little bit of fuel not in the car generally. Matt
Cook, however, has the race lead of this motor race. 2.1 seconds now between Matt Cook and Sage Cameron. Sage Cameron, of course, here, Randy, has worked himself up into second place in this event with a 3-second advantage over Andrew Aiken and Randy Shoemake.
Yeah, it's been a pretty fantastic drive from Sage, hasn't it? We saw the first time down pit road woes and didn't quite get himself in the box and really struggled to do so. Eventually did, and I believe he came out 17th if memory serves. Yeah. He's just been absolutely on rails. He's worked through the traffic. He's been aggressive when he needed to be. He made a couple patient moments and being careful in his ability to dice through and get through the traffic. And I will say, Will, seeing this driver, seeing Sage Karam, it sort of double excites me because we've seen him really step up and take sim racing a little bit more seriously over the last 6 to 8 months. Actually, maybe even a little bit longer than that. I'm really excited for 2 reasons. I want to see a real driver who's run the real race in the top split of the iRacing Indianapolis 500. And I want to see a VRS Coanda Synsport in the official iRacing Indianapolis 500. And we might just kill 2 birds with 1 stone this year.
Yeah, indeed. So, as we have seen, by the way, Tristan Hoyster getting himself past Marshall Stanley. This is a battle for P number 11 on track. But you are right, Randy. see VRS Commander Sim Sports entering the Indy 500. Arguably, Sage Karam is the best driver to do that, and of course he's running P number 2 right now, but a lot of work has to come into play if you're even going to make an Indy 500 entry. First things first, you're running the IR05, you're running the IR18, of course, the car that was released in iRacing just 1 year ago. But for Sage Karam, he has been a flash of lightning into this classic IndyCar series. He's running second right now, hunting down Matt Cook. However, his lap times have not always been comparable. You can see that as we just put the graphics up on your screen. He has been faster, but not faster by much. The gap is 2 seconds between P1 and P2.
The lap times right now are really all over the place because of the lap traffic, because Matt Cook will deal with the lap traffic and then Sage will. So one of them will hit a lap car and that gives the other one the advantage, and then the next one will hit a lap car and that means the gap opens up. And actually Matt Cook, bit of a wiggle off of turn 4. 5th car we've seen this run, at least on the cameras, really make that, have that scary moment, but that was well held by Matt. Of course, the tire's still relatively new on that machine. I will say though, Will, just on our VRS Coanda SimSport point, I think with Coanda, of course, that is the IR18. I don't think it's that out of the realm of possibilities. I know that they had a bit of a technical alliance. I believe it was with Vortex last year when we saw both Mac Backham and Pachalas Gergis actually make qualifying attempts for that race. They couldn't make the Saturday big top split race because, of course, we had a VRS GT World Championship event that day. So they put their let's say their focus on that as opposed to the IndyCar race, as they well should have. But I don't believe we have any schedule conflicts this year, and I wouldn't mind seeing a handful of purple, white, and orange cars. And I'm sure it's always nice seeing new teams come in and play spoiler, even to some of the old names that have been around for so long that maybe got a little bit complacent.
Well, Matt Cook continues to lead this race here by 1.9 seconds over Sage Karam. Andrew Aiken in 3rd, Randy Shoemaker in 4th, Lucas DeVille in 5th, and Josh Chin, Daniel Schulmeister and Jan Hoffman running out the top 8. But Randy, it is a look there that Cook and Sage Karam are trading lap times in the battle for P number 1.
Yeah, they are, and that's what's fun to watch. They've actually cleared the majority of the lap traffic. They had really a huge gaggle of cars that they had to deal with that was kind enough to pretty much single file out for them for the most part. And now that entire group of cars is getting really dicey with one another. And actually what's interesting is that this fight isn't even all for position. Some of those cars are in different laps. But now they're both basically out there with more or less clean air. There's one car separating them at the moment that Sage Karam will have to deal with. And for the most part, up until they potentially catch that big gaggle again, it's probably going to be one lap car every 5 to 6 laps as opposed to what they were dealing with, which was nearly 5 to 6 cars every lap.
Yeah, true. As we just looking down to your field, let's go on board actually with Josh Bard. He runs in 13th place right now. This is the closest battle we got on track here, Randy. Battle for P number 12, and Josh Bard is closing up towards the rear of Marshall Stanley in the number 25 car.
That he is. They come off turn 2. Bard a little bit tight to the center of the corner. I think maybe had to trim that throttle just a little bit. That's going to give Stanley that little bit of an advantage as they run down now in towards 3 and 4. Then if you look behind Josh Bard, you see a red and black number 27. That's currently your 3rd place runner of Andrew Aiken is the 23, very close to the wall off turn 4. That might cost him a little bit of speed, although actually I think he's able to just keep his foot in it, but he nearly smacked that wall and tore it down on the exit of turn 4. Through 1 and 2 now once again. Baird struggles tight, maybe made an adjustment on pit road that he's not going to be liking and feeling in this car. Aiken is going to come through on the inside of Josh Baird now and put him in the rearview mirror and another lap behind him just compared to himself, as Marshall Stanley will be the next car in line that will see Aiken get around. But these two kind of trading lap times back and forth as well. We're not seeing the tight wheel-to-wheel battles that we were seeing in the early phases of this race. We're seeing drivers really kind of get to a gap and they ebb and flow back and forth, really running about the same times.
Yeah, and what we have seen, Randy, as well, is that we've had 2 early cautions, but then a very long green flag run. Most of these drivers will have to come towards pit road one time if we stay under green, one time before we get to the checkered flag here today. So we're battle up front, but even though it is only 2.2 seconds between the drivers of Matt Cook and Sage Karam, that is one that the pit stops might determine if we have a green flag pit stops. But also, Andrew Aitken is only 7 seconds back. If these two top drivers do have issues, Andrew Aitken can come into play as well. We have got more separation in your field. In fact, the closest battle we've got right now is going to Hans Pitkänen, who's looking himself to the outside on the number 8 machine. This is over Zachary Zoir as they head themselves towards the start-finish line.
Yeah, you're right, and I'm actually just having a look, and for most drivers, at least for your leaders, the previous time they were down pit road before that would have been lap 40 when we had that caution, and they would have gone, if you're, in the instance of Matt Cook, for example, from lap 40 all the way up to lap 103, so about a 63 lap run. There was a caution during that, as though, so I'd wager that you'd probably be looking at 55 to 56 laps if that caution doesn't come into effect. So now from 102, you can pretty easily make it to 156, 157 and get to the end from there. The question has to be, though, Will, do you go short here? Let's say you're Sage Karam. Do you go short, take the slight undercut and get on new tires early, or do you go late and maybe force Matt Cook and basically set yourself up for as light of a car as possible through those last 40 some odd laps?
My opinion is, as soon as you get yourself towards that fuel window, you go in towards pit road, use the tires, and hope that the strategy goes in your way. Retirees today, by the way, they include the drivers of Ariel Gurria Jr., Matt Manar, Timo Isinemi, Logan Simmons, Hugo Hernandez, and also Yoni Kajanen in the number 77 machine. So we have a total of 2, 4, 6 drivers out of the event. One driver on a very long pit stop.
Oh, big wiggle for someone off of 4. Who is that? Andrew Wood nearly put us back under yellow flag conditions.
But we say green, Randy, and that's the important thing right now.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just saw the puff of smoke in a car sideways. I honestly thought he was going in the wall as I interrupted you there. He made another fantastic save. So that 6th driver we see nearly plow the wall off of 4 that manages to keep us green. Continue on, Will.
Let's ride on board then with Andrew Wood, and let's show you the replay in the New England number 32 machine, heading himself in towards turn number 3 and 4. Let's look in. Oh, it's a half slide there through turn number 3 and 4, and this is what we expect here, Randy. And again, it comes down to the fact that these drivers do have to make in-car adjustments throughout the course of the run. Maybe Andrew was just a little bit liberous on the front anti-roll bar or on the weight jacker.
Maybe just a little bit, but I mean, this is also, I mean, when was the last time Andrew was actually down pit road? How deep is he into the run? Because I think we're sort of at the window, Will, where the grip initially starts falling away from you. So he came down actually a little on the early side, pit on lap number 100. He's been out there for about 30 laps, and that's sort of the window we were seeing, Will, from those first couple stints of people start struggling with the car. So somewhere between lap 20 to lap 30 is where I think the handling on the car starts to go away, and I think that's why we saw those first 2 cautions, is all the drivers kind of first experience probably with the car really handling in that aspect and probably killing the right rear, in all honesty. And I think that's what just caught out Andrew Wood, is just a little bit of lack of rear grip on that right rear tire.
Jan Hoffman, he's closing up towards the rear of Daniel Schulmeister right now in the 08 machine, and the exit of turn number 4. Jan Hoffman again looks closer. He's been gaining on average about a 10th and a half a lap this time by. They've got lap traffic ahead of them. This might help Jan Hoffman in the 05 machine as they work through turn number 1 and 2 again. But Hoffman not actually able to get alongside Daniel Schulmeister right now as they head towards turn number 3 and 4, Randy.
And not quite close enough to make anything of this, as Daniel is going to deal with the lap traffic. Hoffman, I think, is going to get a better run at it. He's a tight exit off 4, but I think he gets a better run down the straightaway, and he's going to reel in about a car length, I think, over Daniel Schulmeister. But with that said, Hoffman has to run a tight entry in towards turn 1, and that's going to hurt him a little bit, Will, as now he's going to have to push up through turn 2. Can he keep it out of the wall? Yes, he does. So that was well tracked out, as now we get more lap traffic. Jonathan Diggs will be the next car these two have to deal with.
Yeah, we've only got ourselves right now.
Oh, look at the run for Hoffman through 3 and 4.
Yeah, we only got 9 drivers inside your lead lap right now. But Hoffman, he's close, but he's not quite close enough as they come down towards turn number 1 and 2 once again. He's right behind the 08 machine or Schoolmeister as they work through turns number 1 and 2 once again. You got yourself the driver a lap down, working on the outside line. But again, Hoffman cannot get past yet as they head themselves in towards turn number 3 and 4. And Hoffman is battling for P number 7.
That he is, and a bit of a wiggle from Daniel Schoolmeister off 4. And is this going to be the opportunity for Jan Hoffman? Daniel's not going to go defensive, and Jan's going to throw it down the inside in 1 and 2. He'll have the spot for a moment, but can the 08 car work the momentum up off the corner here at turn 2? Schoolmeister pushes all the way out to the wall, and he's going to hold on to that spot for now. But Hoffman, we've seen him get 2 big runs in entering turn 3. This time, Daniel sends it into turn 3 from the upper lane, but can he hold it up there? Hoffman's actually going to back out of it, not wanting to track out into Daniel. That was well defended, Will, by that 08 car after that mistake off 4.
Fantastic defense then by Daniel Schoolmeister, but it's not over yet because Hoffman now will have the run through turns number 1 and 2 as they exit on towards the back straightaway, though. Hoffman is about 2.5 car lengths back and not able to do anything in this battle for P number 7 on track. It's not actually long before we see our second round of green flag pit stops here, Randy, as a better run this time by Hoffman over Schoolmaster as they head themselves down in towards turn number 1. They're only half a car length separating them in towards turn number 1. About a car length through turn number 1, through turn number 2, it's up to 2 car lengths. It seems to be that Hoffman cannot work in that dirty air.
Yeah, he's really struggling right now. I wouldn't say he can't work in it because of his ability to really stick right there, but I just don't think he's able to get the run he needs. He's going to try the middle through 3 and 4, and you see the amount of time he opens up. Well, I'm almost curious if maybe he's too aggressive entering turn 3, and if that's just hampering his run off of turn 4. And I think if he backs up turn 3 just a little bit and concentrates more on getting the speed off of turn 4, he'd be a little bit better off. I see one driver exiting pit road, though. That's the 25 of Marshall Stanley. So green flag pit stops, I think, Will, are coming up here very, very quickly. I think that window is pretty much open. By the way, while we've been distracted by this, Matt Cook has opened up another second over Sage Karam. It's gone from 2 seconds to 3 seconds last time we checked in.
Yeah, but Matt Cook has a lot of traffic right now as we're right on board of him. He's actually got that battle that we're just looking at, but also a Vortex Sim Racing driver just ahead of him. And actually, if you're Matt Cook, the last thing you need right now is to have this traffic giving you the issues on the exit of turn number 2. Cook then, on the exit of turn number 2, he's going to try and make a lunge in towards turn number 3 and 4. He can't do so because the Logitech number 3 car will take the low side. The number 3 car, of course, as we're heading ourselves through turn number 3 and 4. Now Cook will get the inside line through the back front straightaway even in towards turn number 1, and Matt Cook is finally got himself past that Vortex Sim Racing machine.
And we need to see Sage Karam respond to this, Will. I know that for many of the teams and drivers, at least in this series, they won't have a spotter, and it's true for Sage Karam as well. Matter of fact, I think Josh Shin is the only one with a crew chief and spotter registered in the server. But Sage, we have enough tools on the service for the drivers. You have things like the F3 black box. He should be able to see what's happening in front of him, and seeing that Matt is getting caught up in this traffic, Will, we talked about the fact that for the 9 car, he really needs to come down, do the early pit stop, do the undercut, and get on new tires early. He also needs to, I think, come down pit road before he hits this traffic. Let Matt Cook lose all this time dealing with it. You come down, get your tires, get your fuel, and get back out there, likely on a clean racetrack, and start pushing your new tire advantage.
But Sage is not yet pushing in that number 9 machine. It was Robert Grosser who we saw the lap traffic a moment ago. Logitech machine then, the number 12 car is being put a lap down by Sage Karam. But the key thing will be, as you get up towards the number 3 and the number 56 car, Robert Grosser and Jason Heusser, they are 2 Logitech Vortex racing cars, and all for the time being, it looks as though that Matt Cook has got past them, and the guys behind him are not going to move out the way. Matt Cook is going to work himself then onto lap number 148. The gap between himself and Sage Karam stands at 2.7 seconds, Randy.
Yeah, and I think Sage has maybe waited too long. I think he sort of thought about coming down pit road. Of course, it's possible you can't make it to the end here just yet. And of course, some drivers will. They tend to have the mindset, and actually he's going to come down pit road, but I just don't understand why he wouldn't just come down pit road a lap sooner than he did, because he just dealt with so much last traffic. He actually lost 3/10 just going that extra lap than he would have if he had just come down a lap sooner. And I think I doubt he was outside of the fuel window. Maybe he's just barely hit it, but I think that's really hurt Sage, just going that extra lap. But it'll be interesting to see how this actually plays out, as now Matt Cook, how will he respond to this, as he should know that Sage is on pit road as well.
And yeah, Matt Cook should come on towards pit road in the next couple of laps, but here is Sage Karam on towards pit road, then into his box. Perfect onto his box this time by Randy compared to his first pit stop here today.
Yeah, it definitely was, and it's pretty much a perfect pit stop as well. A little bit of a tire spin exiting, but I think overall he'll be okay with that. Now he just needs to be careful running on the flat wheel, as we have seen historically here in the Indycar. Sometimes running on this flat surface can be difficult, and we have seen self spins before. He's doing a good job, though, I think, maximizing the speed. Bit of a wiggle of oversteer, big wiggle of oversteer, matter of fact, and he's going to bring it back up onto the back straightaway, is Sage Karam. So now, when will that number 6 black and blue car respond? He, I don't think, like I said, does not have a spotter connected to the server, so will he know that Sage has come down pit road just by looking at the F3 black box? Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, Will, especially when you have a big lead, to look backwards than it is to look ahead.
Yeah, as Matt Cook comes in towards turn number 3 and 4, this time by, and again, he will stay out on the racetrack. The reason why we know that, of course.
We got a car up in the wall behind him.
Uh-oh, caution potentially here, as let's have a look.
Oh, no, he actually kept it out of the wall. That was well held by Carson Brodery. Actually, no, I take that back. He did tag the wall. He pushed a little bit through 3 and 4, pushed up the racetrack, and just barely hit the wall and kept it up to speed, running only about 100 miles an hour along that wall there in 3 and 4. He's now down on the apron in 1 and 2, keeping it slow, but I think for the most part we should stay green, and that shouldn't affect much.
Yeah, and this is the driver behind Matt Cook. So let's have a look. Corinne on board with Carson Broadway in the 35 car. He just pushes up into the grey and he just slides that right hand side into the safer barrier here. But Randy, Carson Broadway is going to be severely damaged in this event. He has come on towards pit road. He's made himself some repairs. He is out and away, but he's all the way down in P number 23 in this race. I will say one thing. The attrition rate in this race today is low.
It really has. I mean, in the early phases of this race, it felt like it was just going to be a wreck fest, did it not? I mean, we had so many issues with drivers struggling off turn 4 and a couple of car-to-car contacts. And then, as happens a lot in this, Will, sometimes there's a lot of drama in the early 30 to 40 laps, and then they open it up and they suddenly just go 150 laps green to the end. And that's pretty much what we're working on potentially doing today, is we're now inside of the final 50 laps of this event, and they've pretty much killed any worry, I think, of having any issues with the timer, unless they basically go yellow from here.
But Matt Cook still leads. We might still have one pit stop to the end here in this event. We are working on lap number 155 of 201 here in the second round of the Classic IndyCar Series, brought to you, of course, by Logykal Innovative Engineering, as Matt Cook still leads the way, and he comes on towards, no, he's not on towards pit road here, Andy. He stays on the racetrack. So actually the key thing is going to be, how is Sage Karam going to do working through traffic on those fresh tyres?
Well, he'll be doing better than Matt will be, because he's on fresh tires. He can push the advantage a little bit. I mean, the lap times have been about 3 to 4 tenths quicker every trip around the racetrack for Sage Karam, a little bit less so. Matter of fact, Sage Karam just did his quickest lap of the race on lap 153 just a couple of laps ago. So for Matt Cook, he's out there, he's losing time, and he still has yet to come down pit road. I think he may be just thinking there's a chance we could get a yellow. That's the only thing I can think of for Matt Cook, not yet coming down pit road. Of course, that said, going long like this, he will have a lighter race car, because he won't need as much fuel in the car, and he'll have a lighter race car with that new tires. But I think Sage Karam, when he eventually comes down pit, when Matt eventually hits pit road, I think Sage Karam will likely be your lead car by at least a second, if not more. So Matt will have his hands full, and he won't be leaving himself much time to bring that gap back down and in as we're approaching 40 to go.
Well, on board Matt Cook right now as he's got more lap traffic ahead of him, but of course, let's not think back to the last hour of the VRS GT iRacing World Championship when we saw a very similar thing in terms of strategy. A driver coming on towards pit road a little bit later was able to get themselves the race win, but Matt Cook, he stays out as more cars come on towards pit road around him here, Randy, as let's ride on board of a lap Cook. Let's give you some Racesport TV fan immersion. And this time by Cook comes on towards pit road, Randy.
Yep, so this is around the time, like we said, this is about as late as you could go based on when he actually made his last pit stop. Bit of a lock up in front of him, but everything's going to be okay as far as your race leader and who's the man who's been dominating this race. Lucas Laville will be another car who needs to come down pit road. Sage Karam has worked himself back up into P7 just for reference. So Matt Cook, he will roll slowly down towards his pit box. And where will Sage Karam be in relation to Matt Cook? Matt is just now getting into his pit box, and Sage Karam is going to be working in towards turns number 3 and 4. Car gets jacked up. You're going to get 4 tires and some fuel to go to the end, likely not a full fuel load, and Matt Cook rolls away. Sage is only on the front straightaway. Matt, I think, will lose the race lead here, Will, but I don't think it'll be by as much as I initially thought it was, as Sage is turning into 1 right now.
In fact, it might well be the fact that Matt Cook has the race lead. Sage Karam getting loose through turn number 1 and 2 then. They're going to be side by side in towards turn number 3 and 4. Sage Karam will go to the net race lead, but only barely then by Matt Cook by a car length, but already Matt Cook side by side in towards turn number 1, and Matt Cook has the inside line and is going to go for it, and Sage Karam has to fall down to what will be a net second position there, Randy.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Sage, but he's done what he has had to in terms of the tire strategy to bring this gap back down and in for these last 40 laps, as it'll be 40 to go pretty much next time through. Sage is doing well, though, to keep tabs with Matt Cook and not let him just open up the gap. I think this is the lap traffic maybe helping with that just a little bit, but man, if you're going to tell me Sage wasn't trying, Will, saw him clip that apron and just wiggle that car through turns number 1 and 2 at 190 miles an hour, trying to muscle past that number 6 car of Matt Cook. Sage was really pushing hard there, pushing those new tires to their absolute limits, as now that 6 car is just going to blankly open up the gap between himself and Sage Karam in the 9.
I would say, though, that wiggle through turn number 1 and 2 might well have cost Sage Karam this motor race here today. So here comes Lucas Laville on towards pit road here, Randy. He is your race leader, but he will lose that as we get ourselves this field sorted out.
Yeah, we kind of have a handful of, let's say, honorary kind of leaders that we'll have here. Actually, they're all Vortex cars. Lucas Laville, Jan Hoffman, and Robert Grosser. If they can stay out long enough, all of them will get some laps led. Matter of fact, Tristan Hauser was at one point fighting for that race lead and what it was work out being 2nd and 3rd on the racetrack as well. So the Vortex guys getting very good fuel economy today, Will, but other than that, the race really not going their way, as when they eventually come down pit road, they're going to cycle well down the order.
Yeah, you can see it on the track map, actually, Randy, how far back already Lucas Laville is. He's actually going to be about 3/4 of a lap down by the time they exit pit road. So Lucas Laville, that is not going to be the race he was looking for as he comes back onto track right now. You can see it's almost half a lap. If you're doing velodrome racing, you'd call that half a lap.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great situation for them whatsoever as these guys work through 1 and 2. Sage Karam just watching that number 6 car grow bigger and bigger in the I was going to say in the window, but of course these cars don't have windows. We'll say through the visor as they work through. So Tristan Hauser is, I believe, the only car we have to come down pit road.
Jan Hoffman.
Still. Oh, and that's right, Andy and Hoffman.
Yeah, Jan Hoffman right now. He's done 54 laps now on his stint as we ride on board of him in the 05 Logitech Vortex Sim Racing machine. He's not going to come on towards pit road this time by Randy, so he's going to stay out to do another lap.
Maybe they have fuel to go to the end.
What, with 55 laps to go? No, clearly not.
Yes, I know. That was the joke. So for Jan Hoffman, maybe trying to pull off a miracle. We saw Danica win a fuel economy race here, Will. Maybe Jan Hoffman, maybe thinking he can make something of this.
You saying that Danica only won the race because of fuel economy?
No, I'm just saying that she won a fuel economy race.
She only won that race because of fuel economy. It's Matt Cook goes purple, actually. 30.087, as Jan Hoffman will stay out on track to do one more lap. But yeah, many people would argue actually that Danica Patrick only won that race because of fuel economy. But let's go back on board with Sage Cameron right now, because he is 1.5 seconds behind Matt Cook. There is a bit of lap traffic behind. This is a plus and a negative right now here, Randy, because the plus is turn number 1 and 2. You get yourself the advantage, but actually turn number 3 and 4 is where you lose time compared if you're Sage Cameron to Matt Cook.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the tire disadvantage is always going to be the big thing for Sage. There's nothing he can really do to combat with that. Matt's always going to be able to lap about a tenth or so quicker than Sage at this point, just because Sage came down pit road so much earlier. And a matter of fact, it's closer in the 2 to 3/10 range. And Matt Cook with the light fuel load, Will, he's just out here montaging. He just did that 30.096, and he just did another one to back it up when he got some clean air. So light fuel and new tire, that shows what you can do. He's sort of closest to qualifying sort of specs as he would have been all race long. But I will say, Will, when it comes to race winners historically in IndyCar, I never have liked the idea of, oh, they only won the race because. I feel like it invalidates the sports. Like Danica only won the race because it was a fuel economy race, or Paul Tracy only didn't win the Indy 500 because he wasn't an IRL driver.
True. Matt Cook does go fastest, by the way, 30.090. Sage Cameron, Sage Cameron, by the way, has been losing 3/10 of a second per lap as Hoffman is on towards pit road. He won't be a factor in this event because you can see Matt Cook and Sage Cameron going to go breezing past him in just a moment's time. But the thing is, of course, I mean, we've seen an IndyCar race finished by the position of the data logger on the car back at Chicago 2008, of course. That was Scott Dixon and Elio Castroneves. That wasn't just for the race, that was for the championship, Randy. But what we're seeing here today is that Matt Cook is just very slowly, just again, eking out his advantage.
And that's what we've already seen Matt Cook do. I've seen so many races where Matt Cook, he'll build a huge advantage just over the time of a race. I mean, I've seen him just sit behind people and run fuel for laps and laps and laps. I mean, we see that as well in the other IndyCar sort of series that we'll eventually start probably covering a little bit more as the this season goes on. But, you know, Matt Cook is one of the best in that regard of his ability to just sit out in front and really be able to work fuel economy. And that's what happens when you have to deal with some of the IndyCar grace that we've had on the iRacing service, Will. And there's a lot of skills I think the IndyCar drivers have developed that a lot of the other drivers on the iRacing service haven't, be it on the NASCAR side, be it as well even on the road racing side, both in the sprint sort of format with the open wheelers as well as with the GT drivers. I really do think in some ways that if the IndyCar drivers, well, they may be specialists in the IndyCar, there's a lot of other racecraft sort of skills that they have that a lot of others don't. I mean, we've seen Josh Chin, for example, go in towards GT stuff, and he's the only one that seems to be able to fuel save at an actual sort of competent level, and we've seen him actually pull off some fantastic finishes. I mean, he's basically the reason us at Chimera won that SCO Suzuka race, being able to go a full 2 laps further on fuel than anyone else, including us, who are fuel saving. So the IndyCar group definitely has some talented drivers in it, and there's a lot of interesting skills that get built up, and really interesting skills that teach you racecraft, not only in the short term and how to go fast, but as well as how to be fast over a long period as well.
Yeah, and to make the argument, of course, an IndyCar WCS is what a lot of people are looking for, but what we can have a look at is Marshall Stanley versus Todd Novosad versus Mike Logykal. This is a battle for 13th, 14th and 15th place on track right now. Mike Logykal at the rear of this, but you have got yourself a closer battle out front. You've also got a close battle going on right now between Zachary and Josh. This is a battle going on for 16th and 17th place on track here, Andy, as we go on board again once more time with Josh Bard as he's looking for that 16th position.
Yeah, he really is, and we're going to run in towards turn 3. He has the run, might be able to make something of this, but no, not quite.
No, as they head themselves then on the exit of turn number 4, Zachary Bard is still going to look then down to the inside. He has now got the advantage in towards turn number 1. He'll have themselves maybe the inside line as they head themselves through turn number 2. And Josh Bard is now ahead in that 025 car. And he is actually, no, he's still going to stay behind actually, Josh Bard, as they head themselves down towards turn number 3 and 4.
In towards 3 and 4, still looking out in front of him and seeing Zachary Zwar is Josh Baird, and very close to the right rear tire.
Oh!
Both drivers have big issues off turn 4, but they both save it. The Josh nearly got into the back of that 025, had to check up. He got a big bite of oversteer and was able to hold on to it, and then Zach, big bite of oversteer all by himself, just exiting the corner. Yeah,
so Josh Bard in the Northwest number 23 car, sponsored by Virtual Racing School, able to get up into 16th position, but Zachary has fallen down actually, Randy, to P number 19 on track right now.
I mean, that big wiggle really did hurt him, and that was really going to hurt him. Matter of fact, Zachary's making a stop down on towards pit road. I'm not sure if this is him going off some weird... actually, no, he pit on lap 156. Either he's short-filled that car, or he's gotten some damage, or he's just not happy with the tires, and he misses his pit box just to rub it in. So for Zachary, I mean, that's basically going to be a race-ending situation right here for Zachary Zavar with this very, very late race pit stop for I'm not really sure what reason.
Yeah, but out front it is Matt Cook who's leading now by 4 seconds over Sage Cameron with 23 laps to go in this motor race. 4 seconds the gap now between Matt Cook and Sage Cameron as they exit turn number 4 towards the start finish line and in towards turn number 1 once again. Randy Shoemake runs in 3rd place, Andrew Aitken in 4th, Lucas Bird in 5th, Josh Chin in 6th, Jan Hoffman in 7th, and Daniel Schulmeister rounds out your top 8 as I can say hello to Racebot Cats.
Meow.
Meow indeed. But let's talk about Randy Shoemake, because he is running in that 3rd position. He has got himself competition going on behind him. This is with Andrew Aitken, number 27 car, who we know is always so good in this Classic Indycar series.
That he is, and really this gap between these two, 9/10 of a second between Shoemake and Aitken, is going to be close enough that Shoemake is going to have to be, I think, really wary of that, Will, and you know, he doesn't have a big enough gap that he doesn't have to worry about it, but also as well for Andrew Aitken, it's going to be close enough that he feels like, okay, if I just push and a couple things go my way, I can reel that gap back down and in.
Yeah, and the gap currently remains at about 8/10 of a second between Randy Shoemake and Andrew Aitken. That is one of the closest battles we got on track right now. Actually, let's go on board with Tristan Hoyser, because he is closing up to the rear of Robert Grosser right now. Let's give you some Racebot TV fan immersion. So Randy, Tristan Hoyster has been closing, but not enough right now. Last time by only 3/1000ths of a second. We've only got 17 laps of this motor race to go.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit. I will say for Tristan, he did have a big wiggle off of turn 4, so that's going to hurt him in his ability to reel in his teammate of Robert Grosser just out in front of him. And I think that's actually going to be one of the things, Will, that may play into account in this fight. It's actually Grosser. Horrible run off turn 4. That's going to give Hauser a huge head of steam. I'm not sure what happened to Robert, but he just seemed to get tight and couldn't really rotate that car up off the corner. But these two being Vortex teammates, not to say that there's likely to be team orders in effect, but sort of I would say that they're going to play relatively nicely here with one another inside these final 16 laps. For our sake, though, let's hope they don't. Let's see Tristan actually throw it in there, throw a dive bomb, bring out a yellow, and then let's see what the strategy is going to be from the guys out in front.
Well, one other battle we got going on is between Lucas DeVille and Andrew Aitken. We've got 15 laps of this motor race to go, and Andrew Aitken is still staying ahead of Lucas DeVille right now. Andrew Aitken in the number 27 machine, and Lucas DeVille in the number 2.
Yeah, I mean, well, Lucas DeVille a little bit further down, but it's Shoemake and Aitken that are so close right now for 3rd and 4th on the racetrack. And looking at the lap times, it's been Aitken who's been favored by about 1/2 tenth, but Shoemake is going to catch a little bit of lap traffic, and this is going to, I think, hurt him. Very tight line off of turn number 4, and this gap, I think, is going to be closer to about 0.3 of a second. D just a little bit past that from Shoemake to Aitken, and now actually Aitken has to deal with that lap traffic and eventually gets around it. But a couple fights, Will, coming down to the wire here as we get closer and closer to the end of this motor race.
Yeah, and Randy Shoemake, of course, a part of the Aero X stable. She got the number 27 machine of Andrew Aitken right now running just 0.2 of a second behind, as we got ourselves now 12 laps of this race to go. And Andrew Aitken gained lap number 186, lap number 87, and lap number 188, Randy.
Yep, and let's see if he can keep that up through 189 as he works through and off of turn 2. Going to be looking for his braking marker on the right-hand side. Sort of throws the dummy, but nothing quite. Quick dab of brakes, turn the car in, slow it down to about 145 miles an hour, maybe a little bit more than that, and then come up off the corner. I was batting 1,000 yesterday in our last race that we broadcasted on the Esports Network, the VRS GT Endurance Championship season opener, at doing commentated laps and bringing that gap down and letting the drivers go faster. Did it work again, Will?
Yeah, as we head ourselves then down towards turn number 3 and 4. Andrew Aitken is close behind Randy Shoemake right now as they head themselves in towards turn number 4. But Randy, he cannot find a way through turn number 3 and 4. He's close behind turn number 1 and 2 as they come once again, but the gap is 2 car lengths with 11 laps to go. And Aitken looking down to the inside.
These tires are going to be old, Will, and they're not going to be feeling that great. So for right now, for Andrew Aitken, you're dealing with a driver who has completely clean air on old rubber, and the tires, the car is just going to feel so much better for him. And of course, there's no lap traffic out in front as Daniel Schumeister is behind. Actually, I think maybe reeling these guys in. Actually, no, I take that back. But for these two, clean air out in front completely, Will. No real worry of lap traffic up until you get to Hannes Paikinen, who's already coming off of turn 2. So I don't think they'll actually get to that point of the traffic whatsoever by the time this race is over. But that's going to make life very difficult for Aitken trying to make this pass.
So battle going on then for your final step on the podium with less than 10 laps of this motor race to go. We're on board once again with Andrew Aitken through turn number 3 and 4. And Aitken again is 2 car lengths back. And for Aitken right now, it is a battle between teammates in the Aero X Racing stable. And it's a case of who knows each other better, Randy.
Yeah, it is really that situation, and it's almost like what we were seeing earlier with Robert Grosser and Tristan Hauser, by the way, with that fight. They're likely going to play a little bit nicely with one another, I think, because of the fact that they're coming out of the same stable. The 4-car seems to admit, I think the 4-car isn't as fast as Aitken. I think Shoemake is maybe struggling with that car just a little bit here inside of these final 10 laps, but I think Aitken with the dirty air just can't quite get there and can't quite pick it up.
But of course, if you have track position, you can manage the draft and you can manage the dirty air to the way that helps you the most. And here comes Aitken again. He's now down to half a car length as they come down in towards turn number 3 and 4. But again, Aitken cannot do anything through turn number 3 and 4. We head ourselves then down to about 6.5 laps to go. Let's talk about Matt Cook for a moment here, Randy, because Matt Cook has been unstoppable all race long.
Yeah, the only laps Matt Cook has not led is the laps where he's come down pit road and other drivers stayed out. We've not seen the 6 car get past a single time on the racetrack due to a difference in speed. So for this 6 car of Matt Cook, I mean, it's been an absolutely phenomenal drive. It's been a very Matt Cook-esque drive that we haven't seen in quite a while. At least I personally haven't seen in quite a while. I know he's been in the Classic Indycar series, and I know that we've had a couple different teams come through. I haven't been the regular commentator of this for a couple years, but he's lapped now up to P number 5, only the top 5 on the lead lap.
Yeah, as 5 laps to go, brought to you by Logykal Innovative Engineering here on Racesport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network, as Matt Cook has built that advantage over Sage Karam to 6.7 seconds. Let's check back in on Andrew Aitken and Randy Shoemaker. And actually, it looks as though that Andrew Aitken has fallen back. It's almost as if he's resigned himself now to P number 4, Randy.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. I think, you know, maybe a mistake from Andrew a couple laps ago. Actually, the last lap, he lost a full 2/10 over Randy Shoemaker. So maybe a bit of an issue next lap coming through here for 4 laps to go.
Yeah, behind though, we have got a battle going on. This is for P number 8 and P number 9. Tristan Hoyser and David Schumeister. They are scrapping it out for 8th place on track. And actually, Schumeister is very close in towards turn number 1 as we come down now, Randy, to 3.5 laps to go.
Yeah, let's see what he can maybe make of this, because this fight is very close for 8th and 9th out here on the racetrack. Tristan Hauser trying to hold on to this with the last handful of laps. Of course, the thing to keep in mind, Will, they're going to have a lap less than everyone else does to work. They're only running to lap number 200, while your top 5 are going to 201.
Yep, your top 5 drivers have already been lapped, as Randy mentioned a moment ago. Here is 2nd place driver, Sage Karam. He is, however, a long way back from Matt Cook. He's losing 10th after 10th, lap over lap right now, as we turn back then one final time to your battle between Andrew Aitken and Randy Shoemaker. And it looks as though that Randy Shoemaker has not got the competitive advantage right now over Andrew Aitken. They get the 2-lap warning. The white flag for them will come out this time by, but for Matt Cook, he will enter turn number 4 for the final time, and he will take the white flag. 1 more lap to go here for Matt Cook here on Racesport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network, as Matt Cook has been dominant here today. He's led over numerous drivers. Sage Karam has got himself up into 2nd position, Andrew Aitken into 3rd, but Matt Cook has not been challenged this entire motor race. Through turn number 3, through turn number 4 for the final time, and it's going to be Matt Cook who is your winner here today in the Classic IndyCar Series. Matt Cook, a dominant victory there, Randy.
Absolutely phenomenal drive for Matt, being able to pull this off, and a good drive as well from Sage Karam. Run himself up into that 2nd spot, but the man of the day is definitely that 6 car of Matt Cook, because it's been a long time since I can think of an IndyCar race, Will, where a driver out in front of one of these oval races went completely unchallenged for 201 laps. I mean, we saw the little bit with strategy where Sage Karam did have the race lead, but that lasted all of about the back straightaway.
Note the fact that only 5 drivers finished on the lead lap. It was a bit of a messy start, but a very green feel to the latter 2/3 of this motor race. And here comes the Donut Head with the number 6 Aero X car of Matt Cook, claiming victory in round number 2 of the Classic IndyCar Series, winning by 7.5 seconds over Sage Karam. And what a victory by Matt Cook as he burns the tyres then in that number 6 machine. Let's get a look at your final race results here, live from the Classic IndyCar Series. Matt Cook wins by 7.5 seconds over Sage Karam. It's a further 11 seconds back to Andrew Aitken in third place. Randy Shoemake and Lucas Seville are the only other two drivers who finish on the lead lap. Shoemake in fourth place and Lucas Seville running out your top 5. Josh Chin 1 lap down, finishing P number 6. Jan Hoffman in 7th. Tristan Huyser in 8th. Daniel Schoolmeister in 9th. And Robert Grosser rounds out your top 10. Here's a look then at the rest of the results as we're going to take them through you right now. Hans Pitkin in 11th. And you see Mike Gerlicher in 12th. Andrew Edison is in 13th. Josh Bard in 14th. And Todd Novosad rounds out your top 15. The remainder of the results coming up on your screen right now. We will take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen, here on Raceport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. But post-race coverage coming up here after these messages. You are watching the classic IndyCar series boosted by Logykal on the iRacing Esports Network. Welcome back to post-race coverage here from the second round, the Classic Indycar Series, boosted by Logykal here on Racesport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. Here is one more look at your top 10, and it's Matt Cook who claims a 7-second advantage over Sage Karam in a very long green flag run. And Randy, that was a very long green flag run.
I mean, it really was. It was, I mean, we went green from about lap 50 all the way to 201. We had a couple sort of scary moments over the course of that. I think we caught somewhere between like 8 or 9 cars nearly losing it off turn 4 throughout throughout that 150 green flag run, 150 lap green flag run, excuse me. But everyone pretty much holding on to it, and because of that, we wrapped this thing up well within the time limit.
Yeah, race winner is here. That is Matt Cook. Stood by with you, Randy. Take it away.
Yep, I'm stood by with Mr. Matt Cook. And Matt, the race for you seemed pretty much easy. That said, I know the track temperature and the track conditions were mighty difficult, but for the most part, you pretty much seemed on rails, and that 6 car seemed hooked up. How was it from your perspective?
Yeah, definitely stable for the most part over the long run. Definitely, I mean, the right rear would definitely burn up a bit, and we had a little bit of trouble coming off 4, but good use of the in-car tools and just try to stay ahead of it and give it the best we can.
Now, during the course of this race, Will and I were trying to discuss things that might have been frustrating you during this race, because it didn't seem much. You were having a race with Randy Shoemake, and I was actually curious. You've had 3 Randys you've had to deal with throughout your iRacing IndyCar career between Shoemake, Crozzo, and myself. Do you ever get tired of racing against Randys?
No, definitely becoming a favorite by far. You know, Randy's doing an awesome job so far. I would like to see Randy Crosno come back, and I would like to race you again at some point, but you know, hopefully that'll happen in the near future.
Yeah, well, I've gone the route of Will Vincent and become washed up, so it's okay. But next race of this championship, we'll be going to Barber for about 90 laps of running. Are you going to be out there at the track with the big spider?
Absolutely, looking forward to it. I think I've only ever raced there twice, once very long ago, so definitely looking forward to see it again, and hopefully I can have a good showing.
Well, congratulations to a dominant performance tonight, Matt. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that 6 car?
Definitely a big thanks to both the guys, Randy and Andrew. Great job on their parts today. And also a special thanks to Martin Miller for some advice there and additional input.
There he was, Mr. Matt Cook, and that's actually a name we don't see as often as we used to, Will. Mr. Martin Miller. It's good to hear he's still at least giving people advice there at the Aerolex Banshee camp.
Yeah, indeed. So hopefully we'll see him back at the iRacing Indianapolis 500. Second place driver here today is Sage Karam. And Sage, well, you got yourself up for the field on a number of occasions. First, we'll talk me through that first pit stop. What went wrong?
Everything. I didn't do any practice before today, so I kind of hopped into the session and was hoping I could get a baseline set that was pretty good. And I got one that was okay, but it wasn't anything that was like amazing. And then I tweaked it, and I tweaked it a lot actually, and it turned into a really odd looking setup, I think, if other drivers were to see what I was running there. And it seemed to work. But I think it was better in the hotter air and track temp, and then when the track cooled down there at the end, I didn't have anything for Matt. I think early in that race my car was really strong on the long run when the track was, you know, about 110 degrees or so, and then after that I just started slowing down a little bit, and everybody else seemed to be getting a bit better. But yeah, first stop I just missed my box completely, and then I was too far left, and I pulled back in and it was still too far left. I had to back up again, went from like 4th to 18th, and then you know, made my way back up through the field. And it was a very difficult track for sure, so I just really focused on just, you know, trying to keep the car on the track at a turn 4 basically, and hit the apron a few times and won. Hit it trying to get around Matt there and the pit stop cycles. I think I waited too long to do that. I should have came a couple laps earlier. I lost some time to those lap traffic guys, but overall good race. You know, after the first race of the championship, this was definitely almost like a win for me.
Well, if memory serves is correct, you never ran on the real life Twitter Motegi in terms of IndyCar, but you got second place here today. How hard was it running 100 plus laps, green flag, and having to do 2 green flag pit stops in the number 9 VRS car and a Sim Sports car.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect there to be that long of a green flag run, just from the history of how the practice was going before the race. And so I was kind of banking on that we were going to be on new tires a lot more. But then as the race started and I saw that my car seemed to be pretty good on older tires and everybody was starting to fall off, you know, I was kind of hoping for long green flag runs. And then I started getting those runs. And like I said, you know, early in the middle of the race, it was, I think, really benefiting me. And then once conditions cooled down, it just really helped out everybody else a lot more than it helped me.
Well, before I let you go to Barber, shout out sponsors. Who gets it done for you?
I mean, obviously, I got to thank everybody on Kawanda. I mean, they don't have anything really to do with this series, but you know, I've learned just so much, and you know, how to set a car up and just driving on a sim, just talking to all those guys and hanging out with them in the Discords and everything. So just big shout out to all the Kawanda Sim Sport guys, and you know, I got to thank you guys up in the booth. It's always good to have an amazing broadcast team, and you know, it makes the racing so much more exciting. And when you can go back and watch it, and you know, you can have your friends and family watch it too. So great job to you guys. Thank you guys, and just everybody in the whole Indy Classic league. You know, I mean, the racing's really good racing. There's a lot of really strong competition, and everybody races clean and respectful. And you know, I'm just to finish anywhere on the podium, I think in this series is you got to be on top of your game. So just really happy.
Well, thank you very much. Say it's Caroline coming home second place. Fourth place in this race is Randy Shoemake, and from one Randy to another, Randy, take it away.
Yep, how's it going, Randy? This is Randy. We've been talking about Randy's an awful lot today, and you ran fourth today, qualified second. We're up in second for a good chunk of the race. Talk me through your run.
We had a good run, lots of hard work this week by Matt and Andrew. They helped considerably, and Andrew wishes that he could be here and wants to thank Matt for his assistance, and thank you for the racing and everything. I just had a good race, you know, hopeful at times, but my first green flag pit stop was terrible, and just really never made up ground for that. After that, Andrew was pushing me, and it wouldn't have been fair to take a risk and hold him back, so fourth place is a good finish.
And now, talking about this actual race today in particular, Randy, the track temp was something we were talking about pretty much all race long. Completely clear skies. It was up north of 100 degrees for a good chunk of the track, for a good chunk of the race. And on top of that, you guys were dealing with 100% humidity, and you were dealing with winds that were ranging from like a 15-mile-an-hour northeasterly winds to that would occasionally dip down to 5 mile an hour, would gust basically randomly during the entire session. How was it dealing with the conditions you guys had to deal with today? Because I can't think of much worse situations to be running an IndyCar race on here at Motegi and being expected to go out there and compete and perform at a high level.
You're exactly right. Those are the points that made it so difficult. Thankfully, Matt talked us through the situations, and would have been great racing if we'd had cooler weather. But keep practicing in the hot, be ready for the bad conditions, and so we were prepared.
Now, the next handful of rounds of this championship, a couple weeks time, we head our way over to Alabama for Barber. Then you have Texas, the Indianapolis road course in May. No Indy 500 for this series in May, but we do at least make an appearance at the Brickyard. And then, of course, we head to Detroit for the street circuit for about 72 laps. It's a difficult string of races, isn't it? Only one oval in there, a 1.5 miler, and the rest pretty much all road courses, and all road courses that are vastly different. How are you guys going to approach those tracks, and how do you approach really getting setting up for the real differences and all the challenges those tracks uniquely bring?
The road courses are difficult for me. Again, I depend on the team and teammates for assistance there. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss Texas and celebrate my mother's 80th birthday, so I want to wish her a happy birthday early. But yeah, Texas is one I would like to be at. Here I'm from Texas, and the track's very close, so we appreciate it. But the road course is going to be tough, and I'll just prepare and hope for teammates' assistance to get us through and be ready.
Thanks for joining us, Randy, and congratulations on having a relatively clean and successful race here today. Before we let you go, who gets it done for you guys all at AeroX?
Obviously, Matt and Andrew Martin came in and helped this week also. I want to thank my wife for all the time that she puts forth and the support that she gives me to be ready for this, and you and Will for broadcasting the race, and JRT for sponsorship. They got us ready. I ran out of fuel on the outlap today, so they had us exactly prepared for what we needed.
There he was, Mr. Randy Shoemake. He runs for us today, Will.
Yeah, indeed. So, 5th place here today is going to be the driver of Lucas Deville. Lucas, you've been in the wars all day today here at Twin Wing Motegi. You come home P number 5. Tell us through your race.
Pretty much exactly what I expected. The 3 AeroX guys ran away pretty early, which was what I was prepared for. So being exactly where I needed to be all race was perfect. Under pressure with Chin early on, but I managed to take care of that. And big props to Sage to be able to race with the guys so competitively. Even though it doesn't have the track time that we had this week, which was a really great testament for the quality of the racing that we have in CIS.
Well, we talked about the next upcoming tracks on the schedule. The next one, of course, being Barber Motorsports Park. It's a very difficult track there at Barber. Are you looking for another top 5 there, or do you think that the Schenkel field that we have is going to make that life difficult for you?
It certainly will make it complicated, but top 5 is a result I'm expecting indeed. It's one of my strong tracks, and I want to keep the good momentum from 2 back-to-back top 5s to start the season.
Well, before I let you go there, Lucas, shout out sponsors who gets it done for you.
Big shout out to Logykal, tire sponsor of CIS, for staying with us this year. Also, shout out to you guys and Jack that isn't with us today for always bringing your best to our events. Also, I want to give big props to Matt for all the help with the set this week, and he managed to make sure I kept pushing for more and more, and this top 5 is also a bit for him. And big thanks for all the support to my teammates at Logykal Vortex Sim Racing.
That's Lucas Deville, ladies and gentlemen, coming home P number 5. Let's go down through the field a little bit and let's talk to Andrew Adair Saunders. He came home P number 13 today and he stood by with Randy.
Hey Andrew, it was actually, I think, overall relatively successful run for you, qualifying down there in P number 25, not where you would have wanted to be for sure. You do well and you pick up 12 spots over the course of this race, so I think be the second biggest mover of what we had in the entire grid. Talk me through your race in that green and blue number 12.
I'm going to start at qualifying. I'm just glad that I got a qualifying time in. I had a lot of hardware issues here at home. P25 was a lot way better than P29 or whatever I would have started. Anyways, well, at first I had troubles getting through the field, apart from the cautions. And maybe my setup wasn't correctly. My race didn't really get into gear until my final stint, where I suddenly get a big boost of performance and picked up from P19 6 positions and nearly got my girly car as well. It is very successful, but I had a speeding penalty, so for my tribute race, a few things could have been a bit better.
Now for you, most of the drivers, of course, we've talked to were all towards the head of the field. You spent the bulk of this and pretty much the entirety of this race buried in the mid-pack with a bunch of the traffic. How was it dealing with all the dirty air back there with the difficult conditions we had today?
It was a bit difficult, but I had rather more problems adjusting my lines when I didn't expect some guys to be somewhere when they slowed down. I had to take sometimes avoiding action, and that cost me a bit of time, but just in case someone gets the wrong impression, it is nothing illegal. I was just surprised and lost a little bit of time there. Other than that, very clean race, and I gotta say congrats to everyone for that 148-49, I don't know, green lap stint.
Well, thank you for joining us, Andrew, and well done on picking up 12 spots and getting your way to the end of this race cleanly on what was a very difficult Motegi racetrack. Who gets it done for that number 12 car?
May I do some shoutouts or?
Yeah, that was the purpose of the question. We're not allowed to say that S word, so I try to avoid it. Otherwise, Will will yell at me.
First of all, of course, the companies whose products I use, Logitech, Playseat, DRE, they help my performance. Of course, a big shout out to Matt Cook. While he did not help me with the setup for this racetrack, he did those setup tutorials, and that definitely helped me a lot, and as it seems like the entire field, as we had a long green flag. And the last thing that I just gotta mention is my grandma or Oma that passed away 12 days ago. That was the whole point of my skin.
Well, sorry about hearing that for sure, Andrew. And our thoughts and prayers with you guys with the loss of the close family member. But thank you for joining us. Congratulations once again on today, and good luck when we head out to Barber.
Well,
Looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, thank you very much to Andrew and their Saunders. Final driver we're going to talk to you today is Zachary Zwar, and he comes home a little bit further down the field than maybe he wants to be. Randy, he comes home in 21st position. Take it away.
Yeah, well down the order for Zachary. And Zachary, I know you were having some technical issues, and you pretty much posted yourself because of that after realizing it. But before that, talk me through your race today. It seemed like things never really got up going the way you would have wanted. You were at one point, I think, up towards about 15th. Besides that, it seems like you were buried pretty much in the mid-pack.
Yeah, it was not really a productive day for the 025 car, but I'd say it was a pretty decent one. I qualified where I'd usually expect where I was, and then I didn't expect to go all the way up to 15th and have at least a chance at a top 10 or so. It's just hard to say because it was just a very difficult day for us.
Now, talking as well about this race, like you said, very difficult day for sure. With you racing in the mid-pack, was there anything difficult that you were specifically having trouble with that you think some other drivers maybe a little bit further ahead seemed to have cars that just worked a little bit better and were able to deal with the track conditions and the actual just difficulties of getting around Motegi?
It was very slippery coming when you get that wear and tear on those tires, but when you get new ones, it's pretty fast. But I didn't really have much problems. I was just running my line, running my race, and just trying not to hit anybody who was getting in my way or was going in my or I was getting their way.
Now, my last question for you is, at least I know for a fact that you have PSR TV stickers on your car. When are you going to update the sponsorship and get with the times?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't realize that.
We're offended.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about it. Just a bit of a friendly joke here as I was running the default skins. But regardless, Zachary, congratulations on the good run. And before we let you go, who gets it done for that 025 car?
I'd like to thank Marshall, the team owner, for signing me on this year, actually. And I'd like to thank MPI and Logitech, which I use, and Razer Chimera.
Right, well, there he was, Mr. Zachary Zwar. Not the race he would have wanted, Will, but I think he'll go in towards the next rounds with his head held high. Yeah, and of course, the next round of the championship is going to be at Barber Motorsports Park in a couple of weeks here on Racesport TV, streaming live on the iRacing eSports Network. That is all we've got time for here today. Before we do that, shout outs. First of all, to Logitech Innovative Engineering, the title sponsor of the Classic Indycar Series, as well as Ismail Bala at TrekCam22.com, Andres Warner, Andrew Design, it's Simon Grossman at Geneva.com, and Nick Thisson for Racesport TV, live timing and scoring. This is going to be the last time that you'll see me on a Classic IndyCar Series broadcast for a while.
I've really enjoyed it, but Jack Stiles et al. Will be doing the coverage for the remainder of the season. I've really enjoyed it, as I say, once again. But that's all we got time for here in the Classic IndyCar Series here today. Good night from this amazing twin ring Motegi racetrack.